peppermint, sorrel, ginger, beaver grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill.
Good morning, folks. All right. Needed to buy myself a little bit extra time this morning. So, good morning, and how is everyone? Happy Thursday. The month is starting to wind down, less than a week left. And then we get into September, which, as you know, September is the height of the hurricane season. So far, it has been relatively uneventful, which I think is truly amazing. And I guess we're thankful for that. You know, nobody's complaining. So we continue. I know that our in-house weatherman, Kevin Watler, has been watching a system that he's keeping an eye on, and he's going to tell us if that develops into anything that should be of concern for us. But for right now, it is all quiet. Everything is a bit far away. Nothing major developing, and we are ever so grateful. So good morning, one, and good morning, all. Let me just grab my phone and send out our reminders to everyone. So just a quick reminder, we've got a WhatsApp news group. We have everybody watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, those of you who are listening on Bobo 89.1 FM. Thank you for waking up every morning with us and making us Cayman's #1 talk show. Fun fact, did you know that CMR and the Cold Hard Truth was actually the #1 talk show before we were even on radio, which to me is kind of crazy, but yes, we were. So last year, Tower Marketing did their consumer survey report, and in their consumer survey report, they included CMR in the talk show lineup, and lo and behold, we came in tops. So we beat out all the other talk shows on island. And the most interesting thing about it, which I thought, oh, so we beat them out, and we don't even have a radio audience yet. Of course, we changed that in March of this year. But also, the most interesting thing about it all is that it's just super interesting to see the demographics of who listens to CMR. So we got a lot of female listeners. But one of the most interesting things is that I think, and I'll be interested to know next year how this theory of mine pans out. But I do believe that the numbers are going to change with male to female. So I think now, because we're in traditional radio, we're going to pick up a lot more men. But yes, I mean, women outnumber men on this island in any event. But it's just interesting that we do have a very, very strong female audience following us. So yeah, there you go. So the Tower Marketing Report, we need to go through some of that. Earlier in the week, I got a call from a young Caymanian who is in sort of multimedia space, and he was sharing some of his concerns with everything from trying to get government to understand the changing face of how things are done, how campaigns are run, how marketing different events. And he says, it's just a challenge for him because he's not the traditional expat person who can come and get a government contract, because he's a young Caymanian, different and fresh ideas. They kind of put him on the back burner and don't really pay him any mind. And they're more than happy to pay people and give people all these contracts just because they're from a foreign, as they say, which is really sad and unfortunate. So he's going to be joining us for the conversation about the changing face of media. We're still going to have that conversation. I know I've been talking about it for a minute. One of the biggest difficulties is trying to get people who are willing to have the conversation. I don't know why media should be shrouded in such secrecy. There's really nothing that's secret in this world, right? But nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about the changing face of media, and it has changed a lot. So we reached out to our other media, like news partners, and they're all like, radio silence. I think April, is a little bit more, because April is I love April, her brain. Like, if I could just take her brain, I would, because she is just so smart and so on the ball. So, she was interested, but of course she is super busy over there at Radio Cayman. And because she does work for government, it's something that she'd have to get clearance from to sort of do. But she, has her own sort of top platform and stuff as well, that she focuses a lot on education. Wendy, I don't know. Wendy kind of just doesn't have time as well, trying to run a one and a half woman show. And I'm not sure that she quite gets the technology a lot of times. So it's difficult to get her on board to like do a show. It's like, hey, we got thousands of people listening in the morning. Why wouldn't she want to jump on and talk about these? They're like, no, I'm too busy writing a story. It's important to for a lot of different reasons, to see trends and to talk about trends, and not everybody gets it, folks. So I'm here rowing my little boat. Row your boat. Yeah, that's me. So I'm rowing my boat and just keeping things moving. Good morning, Miss Vernita. Diamond Princess is here. Good morning to Vicky. So not everybody understands the vision, folks. I tell you that a lot of times in life, you may be the only one who is in the moment understanding the vision, and you just have to keep going. Don't let anybody sidetrack you because they don't understand the vision. Once you understand it, you're the vision maker and the person who's going to execute the vision. Then you do what you got to do. Eventually people come around. They might not always fully understand it, but eventually at some point they will acknowledge your successes in some way, even if it's just to criticize you, because that is an acknowledgement, because you've not truly arrived until people put a target on your back. So it's interesting. I think it was last week I was telling you guys about the acupuncturist, and when I went to him for the first time, the guy in Florida, how he was telling me about this movie with Patch Williams, I think is what it's called or something. But anyway, he was telling me about this movie, Robin, is it Robin Williams? And he said to me, you're going to find that a lot of times in life, you're about 10 years ahead on certain ideas and thought processes and maybe the average person, but you can't let anybody's inability to see what you're saying or to understand what you're saying to dissuade you from it being, something that you should continue to say. And so, everything has its time, I suppose. And messages, in a way, also have their time. And when people, are unable to share in that vision, then it does not mean that you should, abandon the vision. Basically, was what he was saying to me, and I completely agree. So, good morning to the beautiful Vicky who's joining us. We've got Marshall joining us as well. Melita, Felicia, Richard says good morning from Celine and I. Richard, have you been using your streaming box? How's it going? I never hear you mention anything about it, so I'm not sure if you actually use it or not. Vernita's here. Vernita loves her TV channel. She's got it locked. Wee, so good to see you. Aliano. Venita is also joining us. Good morning. How are you? Miss Morna is here. Marshall says, with or without them, the show must go on, or the show will go on. Absolutely. And but I try to invite people in on the discussion to get their perspective. I think sometimes they don't want you to know. You keep people in the dark about certain things, and they just don't want you to know, right? Like who wants to talk about the fact that Tower Marketing actually spends I'm putting on my little face lotion this morning. Remember I told you guys these capsules last a while. So who wants to talk about the fact that Tower Marketing is doing this annual consumer survey, which, by the way, big shout out to Tower Marketing because it is a very detailed survey and they ask a lot of questions. They're looking at everything from newspapers to what your TV watching habits are, how much time you're spending on the internet, all sorts of stuff. So if I run a business, I would be very, very interested in that information because that information speaks volumes. If I'm trying to know who to target for certain things and what mediums to use to target those individuals, that report has significance. So that's why, we're going to talk about it. Whether anybody else wants to talk about it or not, we are going to talk about it. I think what ends up happening is there's a lot of people in the space of media. So we got a lot of radio stations. We have a lot of, only a couple newspapers now. But, the bottom line really is everybody wants to walk around claiming that they're number one. And they tell you this all the time with zero proof or evidence. I have seen people, and I've chuckled at this, say to me, well, the reason why we use the compass, here's a perfect example, right, of where people just lie in the world of advertising and marketing. They say the reason why we use the compass is because they tell us that, they're reaching millions of people on social media and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, really? This is Miss Universe, Cayman Islands. Oh, this is why we use the compass. I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, have you ever asked them to show you that information? Show you the reach that they're talking about? And then the person who's telling me this, who's making the decisions on behalf of Miss Cayman Islands Universe on who they're going to use as a media partner, they're just like, no. And I said, well, why not? If someone tells you something like that, the beauty of a lot of this stuff is it is readily available online. Facebook is amazing for the amount of information they will tell you about the patterns of people who use, their sex, their age, their everything. It even allows you to compare against your competitors. So when the Compass made that statement, their salesperson said that to the Miss Cayman Universe people. I said, but according to Facebook, we have 340% more engagement than them. So how are they claiming that? Like, I'm a little bit confused. And of course, the person I'm talking to has no clue. Because once again, we put people in positions to make certain decisions and they themselves don't know technology. They don't know the world of marketing. They don't even know Facebook. They don't know social media. They know none of this stuff, but yet they're making decisions and they're allowing people to sit in front of them and tell them a bit of information, and they don't even question it. They don't even say, well, what proof do you have of that? Because everybody else looking from the outside in can see that for the past 5-6 years, the compass has been slipping a lot. So if they claim that they're in the number one slot, what evidence do we have of that? They're not in the number one slot on social media, not by a stretch. So when they say that to you, you question it, right? But thankfully for them, I guess, they have what's called legacy on their side. So simply because they've been around for 45 years, there are those of you who will spend, thousands of dollars every single month with them and see zero results and don't question it and continue to spend the money. You see, that's why they don't want to have the conversation. Because when I bring the conversation to the people, I'm going to be like, here's the facts. Let's look at this graph. Let's look at this information, right? Let's look at what Facebook has told us is actually going on, as opposed to what they're telling you as part of a sales pitch. Anybody can walk through your door and tell you that they're number one, but don't believe them. Challenge them and say, how are you number one? Why are you number one? And do you have anything to prove that you're number one? And that's a whole different thing, but nobody wants to have this conversation. Because when you put people to the test, then the cold hard truth starts to emerge. So good morning to KK. She says they'll come in when it's getting hot. Good morning to Miss Joy. Luis is here. Good morning to Sarah. So good to see you. Kevin, this is pleasant. Good morning. Good morning, Kevin. We've got Evangelist Olafemi. How was your birthday, my dear? I hope you enjoyed it. Ms. Vernita says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and all those that judge you shall be condemned. Little biblical verse this morning for us. Thank you. We appreciate it. Miss Evelyn, still enjoying. Girl, are you ever returning from the UK? It's okay. You don't want to come back. What is going on over there? Heat wave and all, and you're still stuck in the UK. Now that is a proper vacation, I must tell you. I love it. Yes, enjoy your life, my dear. Life is short. We're here, and then in the blink of an eye, we are gone. Oh, I've got my people messaging me saying, hello, Miss Sandy, you've not sent us the show link on the WhatsApp group. My apologies. I got it ready. Let me send it out. I just forgot to do it. So, yes, they're like, Miss Sandy, we're here waiting. Now they know we go live, but they're still like, you send us the link. So give me 1 second. I am sending it right now. So yeah, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes for running a news platform. It's not really quite as simple as people think. And there's a lot of stories that sometimes we are working on and, trying to get information. Ooh, and let me tell you something. Trying to get information can be a very challenging situation, especially when you need accuracy and you need people to be willing to talk because, at the end of the day, there are times when things can be really, really sensitive. And we live in a community where people often want to hide things, everything from abuse to drugs to all sorts of stuff. So it's very, very, very important. So Lance is in the house. Hey, Lance Jefferson. He says digital has changed the marketing industry through the transparency of analytical reporting. But Lance, unfortunately, a lot of the consumers and the actual clients don't know that. And so they're still in this old school mode where they are relying on a sales pitch to convince them one way or the other, and no sales pitch with any real analytical data, as you rightfully said, to back it up. Lance, I don't know if you've been watching, Facebook has been making some changes with Facebook pages, and they've introduced a new page system and platform. It's still being rolled out to some extent. And so once you switch over to this new page, they have actually removed, it seems like I can no longer find it, the ability to compare this comparison I was talking about earlier in Facebook. Compare yourself to your competitors in the Facebook and the social media space. And so that was such a useful tool to have right on Facebook. But thankfully, Facebook is not the only source to provide that information. There are back-end tools that can actually extract that data and still do a comparative analysis between you and different other pages that are in the same space, or any page that you want actually, and give you the engagement rate so that you can look at, okay, what posts get the most engagement and so on. And it is very, very useful information. Listen, the world of advertising has rightfully changed. The world of marketing, promotions, everything has changed. And people have less money to spend. And you want to spend your money as wisely as you can. As they say, you want to get value for money, the bang for your buck. And so one of the things that you've got to really be cognizant of is, why are you going to spend your money here versus there? And when it's advertising, the only reason you need to spend money here versus there is results. That's all that matters. And I've seen people get caught up in, CMR can be so controversial, or this or that, or the second my thing went up, people messaged me, oh my God, I saw your ad in CMR. Let me ask you a question. When you're running your ad in the Compass or anything anywhere else, is anybody messaging you about your ad, or that they saw you? No. So the very fact that they're noticing you now all of a sudden, and you've got that exposure, trust me, that's precisely what you want. But there's so many Cayman businesses that are a bit old school, honey child. And they're still like, oh my God, I don't know, the controversy. I'm like, everybody else in the world comprehends and understands that controversy sells. I mean, it's not really rocket science. If people are paying attention to you, we've got videos that can get over 1 million views. Now, that's not the average. Let's be honest here. That's on the high end. But regardless, people are going to the page. I just saw that on our website, for the first time, we've reached over the 300,000 mark for the past 28 days. So the website is still growing. Social media is off the chain, in particular Facebook, in terms of users and engagement and that sort of thing. And the beauty of Facebook, again, like I said, and I'm not going to get too deep into this because this is part of the discussion that we want to have for our media consumption show. And it might actually turn out to be a 2-part show. But the beautiful thing about Facebook is they continue to give you, for every single post that you put up, the actual insights for that post. So let me give you an example, because I believe in transparency, even when it comes to what it is that we do, right? So here's an example of this. This is Waffle Monkeys. Yesterday was Waffle Day. We put this up. It says 16 hours ago, so not yet 24 hours. It's already reached over 7,000 people. Over 1,300 people have engaged with the post. So engagement, I'm going to enlarge this a little bit so y'all can see it. So engagement is when people do things like comment, like, share it, that sort of thing. It counts as engagement. They interact with the post. So you've had a post that reached over 7,000 people in 16 hours, and over 1,300 people have engaged with it. And there's some that reach a significant amount. So, sometimes the average person will look at something and they'll say, well, I don't see people commenting. Well, you don't see people commenting, but believe me, that doesn't mean that it's not reaching people and that people are not engaging in other ways. So there's another one that we did recently. I'm just going to show you this one. Let me see if I can find it. We do post a lot, by the way, but let me see. And I was saying to the client, because they're like, wow, that reached a lot of people in just 24 hours. And the more something is up, obviously, the longer it's up, the more people it's going to reach, right? So there was one with, I'm trying to remember which one that was. And, some stories, it just depends oftentimes on the nature of the story. Here's a Cuban story. So that one reached over 11,000 people, over 1,600 engaged with it. Some will reach an enormous amount of people. Like it's just crazy what people are into. All right, let's take this one. This was the demolition of the 200-year wall, right? Reached over 21,000 people. You see that? And over 4,900 people engaged with this in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. And these are all organic because normally we don't have to, we don't promote anything. Sometimes we promote stuff for clients. Here's my video with the iguana tail, reached over 22,000 people, over 2,800 engaged with that one. Check out remember the turtle? That's how old? Post impressions over 20,000, reached over 19,000. So it is, it's really, really, really interesting. This one trended well, came on ranked one of the safest Caribbean destinations. Did y'all read this? Reached almost 30,000 people. That's a lot of people when you consider even the population of Cayman and what Cayman is, population size and how many people you're potentially reaching. Those are some really, really good numbers. So here's one for total health, reached over 10,000 people, post engagement 233. And, when I have people advertise in their platform and they ask for this information, we have absolutely no problems providing it because I think, again, money is what it is. It's hard to come by. Everybody works really hard for their money if you're doing it legitimately. And so at the end of the day, you have a right to ask for that information. So put your people to the test when they tell you things from a sales perspective. Say, oh, can I see any of your social media numbers? Because the answer should be sure. Why not? So Lance, yes, we've had to explore those third-party options because Facebook made this change that I was not very pleased about, but it is what it is. Miss Isabel Geiger, good morning. She says, good morning, Sandy. I'd like to let you know how much I enjoy you and, looking for the rest of that message. Okay. Thank you very much, Miss Isabel. We appreciate that. Cece's here. Cece says, I'm done shopping local because imagine 3 pairs of socks for $10, kiss my teeth, especially most of the stuff are duty free. It's crazy. I paid $45 CI for 5 packs and 3 pairs of socks. And my best friend paid $30 US for 72 packs of socks in Miami. Well, honey child, the prices in Miami have gone up with a lot of things, but you can't compare goods and shopping in Miami to what you can in Cayman. When you live there and you're just not even making the same money, believe me, the how far the dollar stretches is probably about the same. So when you consider the salaries for most places in the US, all the taxes you have to pay, property tax, income tax, some states hit you twice with the income tax. You got to pay insurance. You have to pay, what other taxes do you normally pay? Property, income, sales tax on your goods. It all adds up. So how far your money is stretching is a very relative sort of question. And yes, goods on the face of it are definitely cheaper in the US for a lot of different reasons: population, availability, how they can ship it relatively cheap. The cost of containers have like quadrupled since Ivan. So a container before that you could get from China to Cayman for $4,000 is now like over $20,000. Well, that information is about maybe a month and a half out. So it might have come up or gone down since then. But imagine that. Containers went from $3,000 to $4,000 to get a container from China. This is, routing the container, China to the Cayman Islands. And then it went up to over 20 grand. So even if you're buying goods dirt cheap in China, by the time you get them here and you add on all the freight and the this and that, and plus, yes, you're going to hit by duty as well, there's no way that Cayman will ever be able to compete with those sorts of prices. Now, I don't know where she's buying 72 packs of socks. That must be 72 socks. That can't possibly be 72 packs. But, there's certain places that people can go, wholesale places and whatever, to get things relatively cheap. Now, I haven't seen no 72 packs of socks, even Walmart. So I'd like to know, or even Sam's Club for that matter. I'd like to know where she's getting 72 packs at that price. Because believe me, I go to Sam's Club and I buy socks if they have them, for my husband, because normally they have good socks and undershirts and stuff like that. Those are the types of things that I don't mind getting like at a Walmart or whatever. And I've not seen them that cheap. So your friend must have some inside store link that she needs to tell us about. But we go back to this concept we were talking about on Tuesday when CUC was here about the cost of doing business. It's not cheap to do business anywhere in the world, but it's certainly not cheap to do business here in the Cayman Islands. Now, there are families, I'm reading Bishop's message, I saw family in it. There are organizations and companies, retail companies, that don't have a clue how to mark up their goods. And so when I see people, going to like Ross and shopping and getting a dress for like $10, $15, and then they want you to pay $100 for it, that those people don't understand business. They don't know how to mark up goods. They don't understand any of that, right? And so we do suffer from a lot of that, especially with mom and pop stores, where they don't use a formula, right? They don't even know what it costs for them to operate their business. So they just look at it and go, oh, well, I just feel like charging $85 for this dress or $95 for this dress. There's no, okay, I'm marking it up 20%. And I've done an analysis across my business, because if I mark everything up 20%, that's going to cover duty, this, whatever. Because remember, even as a business, when you import stuff, you're paying duty on it as well. And depending how you're shipping it here, it may not be all that cheap. Like I see people in business and they're shipping goods in using like UPS and FedEx and stuff. And I'm like, why? You know why? Because they don't understand business and they don't have the money to order like an entire container full of stuff. So they just, trying a thing. Good morning, Bishop. Asking about the weather. He said it's raining cats and dogs in Orlando. And speaking of rain, there's been some crazy flooding in the US, Texas, and all over. People are like losing their homes. I saw a poor lady, her car got washed away the other day. She was actually on the phone with her husband when she got washed away and got killed. Because yes, the weather is just crazy. It goes from one extreme to the next. So certain areas are having massive droughts, so much so that dinosaur footprints are showing up in those areas that they hadn't seen forever. They're finding bodies where people accidentally drove into like a lake or bodies of water. And because the water is receding in a lot of these lakes, they're now visible from aerial, like people have drones and whatever, and they're seeing cars that were submerged. It's crazy. And then in other areas, the rain has been off the chain. So we do have Minister, the Honorable J.E. Banks, who's going to be joining us this morning. So we're going to go ahead and grab him. Lance says, as a business, businesses should place their ads where their eyes are. For example, YouTube, second largest search engine in the world. Yes, but I must tell you, if you're like me, I don't like to see YouTube ads. So I subscribe to not see the ads. So you'll never really catch me with a YouTube ad. And the second I have the option to skip it, I'm skipping it. Even before I subscribed, I opted out of that option. So I think you also have to know, to be fair, Lance, your audience, right? So YouTube is a huge player, but how many people in Cayman are really on YouTube? I can tell you, even from the perspectives of this show right now, we have over 177 people on Facebook and 90 people on YouTube. Facebook is dominant in the Cayman Islands. So Facebook ads for Cayman, for your Cayman audience and your Cayman consumers is way more effective than YouTube. It's just, I think it's our aging, population. They're just not all caught up with YouTube quite yet. Lamp says, unfortunately, although the Compass has been around for 45 years in the digital world, they're pretty dated on their strategies, hence the lack of their reach and true success online. Well, you know what I found interesting? And like I said, Lamp, this is a conversation for another day because we're actually going to do a show on this. Maybe you should jump on the show. That's really been interesting. Their entire transition, we'll go into it, has been pretty interesting. So Tinash says, hello, everyone. I'm joining from Zimbabwe. Tracy, who are you being rude to this morning already? Tracy says, morning from New Zealand, and she's telling somebody to shut up, but I don't know who she's talking to. Oh, Tracy, be nice. Good morning to Miss Iva. KK says, I love shopping online. I would never and could never shop here. I'm sorry. Whoever's waiting for my money would be waiting a long time, other than supermarkets and Digicel. I hear you. Good morning, Lavana. Lavana makes a valid point. She says people also need to take into consideration that they have to buy a ticket, hotel, really can't compare. And that's true, because even if you go away for the weekend, you factor in the car rental, the ticket, the hotel, eating out meals, because you're not likely going to be cooking that weekend. And then on top of it, you're still going to pay duty depending on what you're bringing in. So fair point. Darlene says, wish we could have some of that rain. She's not getting it in the UK. Everton says, global warming is real. Miss Isabel finishes. She says, and CMR, please keep it up. Thank you so much. Jonathan says, the second coming is near. Well, it's been near from the first coming. Morning, Brother Tommy. Miss Lucille joining us. She says, a very good morning, Sandy. I do not care if I do something that you have to shout me out. I love the show. I do not have to make a call home to no one to know what's going on. I love it. Stay safe. Love you all. Thank you, my love. And Debbie is also here. All right, folks, let's get it. The Honorable J. Ebanks, first time on the show, so let's give him a really, really big applause. Good morning, Minister Ebanks. How are you?
Good morning, Sandy. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right, great. Good morning, Grand Cayman. Good morning, Kim and Brack, and a special good morning to the people in North Side. Thank you for having me. This is my first time on your show, Sandy.
Yes,
So
I'm hoping that I didn't force you. I was saying that I was, yes, Minister, I was saying that I hope I didn't force you to get up too early and drive all the way from North Side. But as my aunt used to say, the early bird gets the worm. So here we are.
Well, absolutely. I'm always in the building. I'm usually the first person to the building every morning. So I'm okay.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yes, thank you so much. This is your first time. Took you a little while to get here, but love it. Never, better late than never. So we welcome you with a special CMR and Cold Hard Truth welcome. So you've been a very, very busy man, Minister. You've had a lot going on that falls under your ministry. And so this week in particular, you're kind of in the spotlight because of a recent legal decision that has come down that involves the Central Planning Authority. So that just dropped literally a day before yesterday, late in the afternoon. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that as yet. We haven't yet had an opportunity to dissect it here on the program, but just a short version of it, folks. It was really a bit bizarre in a way, but we had several government entities suing other government entities, which might be a first. I'm not really sure. But has your team had a chance to dissect the decision as yet? Or are you guys still working through that?
Well, Sandra, let me just back up a little bit. To start off with, it should have never went the direction it went. Technically, this should have actually came to cabinet and made cabinet make this decision and support it. That's where it should have went. We should have never had two government entities at each other. The second thing on it is my team is actually getting ready to debrief me today on the whole matter. So there's not much I can really say onto it.
Okay.
All I can really do say is that I stand behind the CPA, and I'll see what decisions they decide to take moving forward, and then we'll know from there.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. I know these things can be very, very complex, and it's always best to get a proper legal update. And I think from my perspective that I wouldn't be surprised if the decision is actually challenged. So someone was asking what he's minister of. The Honorable J.E. Banks is Minister for Planning, Agriculture, Housing, and Infrastructure. So that's what falls under his responsibility. Lance Jefferson sends a special greeting to good morning. Sherry Ann
Good
is in the
morning.
house.
Good morning,
So
Diane. Good morning, Lance.
yes. So, Minister, there's been quite a bit on the housing front, and I think this is probably where we really want some of the updates from you this morning. So, give us an update on where we are with some of the housing initiatives that are going to be available to the people of the Cayman Islands. One of the biggest complaints that I hear day in and day out is the affordability of housing. Rent is higher than it used to be at one point. And one thing with Caymanians believe in home ownership. That is something that's like a
Absolutely, it is a
fundamental.
must for any Caymanian.
Yeah.
All right, let me start off with housing. Housing has been off to a little slower pace than I would have wanted it to be at, but
Mhm.
the reason for that is we understand that infrastructure is always the slowest part of it. Building homes are very easy moving forward. It's putting all the electricity, the water, the roads and stuff in is where the time consuming is. We actually have 19 homes that we're getting ready to build right now in Lighthouse in West Bay. We have a mapping drawing that has just hit the table last week to do 56 in Apple Blossom, which is going forward.
Mhm.
So that should actually be going to planning very shortly to redesign the old Apple Blossom site. And then we're looking at doing the 50 that we're doing in North Side. The infrastructure actually is moving right now for the North Side site. Matter of fact, I think maybe next week, if all colleagues are here on island, we probably will be doing a grand opening of the up the lighthouse site. And then
Mhm.
also we're looking at sending out maybe an RFP to do on the old Cox site in central Georgetown down there.
Mm.
Um, because what we want in that site, we're looking to do maybe 100 homes on that one. So I think what we'll do is we'll send out something on Bonfire, whereas we'll try to get one developer to actually design that whole site, one contractor to build that site, and then when it comes to the other sites, we'll work with the smaller contractors to continue building the homes. I know we have 7 keys that we're actually getting ready to start to hand over for the in Town. It was
Mhm.
just a little issue of having a road access to that area, a second road access to the area. Cabinet actually just approved that just yesterday, gazetted. So that is no longer the problem. We're getting the road
Mhm.
for there. Um, we have about 9 people, I think, that have taken the opportunity on your build on your own program.
Mhm.
So we have those that have their own property that is applied to get the houses built. And I must congratulate the board because they have been able to keep the cost of these houses down, even though a lot of people have said that this newer design to these homes are going to be way out. They're able to keep them under 180,000. So the threshold has actually been met pretty good. Um,
Mhm.
we have several of them that we've actually sent over to some of the banks now for approval. We're just waiting back to hear from them. And there's been, I know the numbers right off the top of my head with the North Side one because I keep up to date on that one. I know about 22 people have been approved for that site already.
Mhm.
Um, I think that the 19 in West Bay has been actually been already sold out. Those have been already pre-approved, and so it's just a matter of getting the other ones in Apple Blossom, which is actually in Miss Wilkes area, Kathy Wilkes area, getting them going. But then we're actually looking more land where we
Mhm.
could actually try to do some housing and maybe the prospect to Newlands area also.
So I think we probably need to have the National Housing Development Trust on so that they can tell us a little bit about some of the details of how people can apply and what some of the qualification criteria are. But you've got a couple. The bottom line then is you've got a couple different sites that are being worked on now, and
Yes.
in addition to that, you've got future plans, provided that the infrastructure issues can be addressed, to have some housing projects in some other kind of key areas as well. Now, sometimes people can source housing opportunities on their own. They just need assistance with whether it's like a bit of a reprieve from the stamp duty or some help with financing. Are you familiar? I know there was an initiative recently through the Development Bank that allowed Caymanians to qualify and sort of lock in an interest rate. Because, of course, this year I've lost count how many times the interest rate has already gone up for the year. And it's anticipated to keep going as the US and the feds are trying to control inflation. They tried to regulate the industry and what's going on by increasing the interest rates. So do you know much about that program over at the Cayman Islands Bank?
I do know that the deputy premier has actually put some money over to CIDB for housing directly, and has capped the interest rate at a certain level right now. I don't recall what it is right off the top of hand, but I know we have actually sent several people over there to get pre-approved from them, and it seems like it's going pretty good. But one of the other initiatives that we need to get going is the GG Ham program, because that will help people also that want to, source help. And have that
and remind people what that is.
That he will be going out and talking to the banks to get that program going very shortly again.
Yeah, can you just remind people what that is? Because it hasn't been up for quite some time, and people may have forgotten precisely what that program entails.
Well, it is like it's basically the housing guarantee, the government. It's a government guarantee housing program where we help with the depending on how we actually change it, could change a little bit, is because I think what we need to do is I'm finding a lot of people are dropping below a certain threshold, and we may need to be able to help them where we can assist them with a certain amount of money for their first. Because the problem is that a lot of people are having problems putting up that deposit, that first deposit, and that's where that DG Ham would come into effect to help them to get into guarantee and almost to guarantee their mortgage. Government almost guarantees their mortgage for them, but there are about 600 people that are registered with housing directly that I know right now. That's just housing that are looking homes, and there's a threshold that are some people that are falling in a certain bracket that don't even meet that threshold for housing. So I'm having to come up with a different idea of how to maybe housing will have to get into the rent to own program for these people to be able to afford to be able to get housed, because I am the minister for housing, and I want to make sure that to me the most important, one of the best things that Cayman can have is his home, and I am guaranteed to try to find out that we make sure that we find a way to get every Caymanian in a home and be able to afford their home somehow. And for some of those that fall below that threshold, the only thing I see we can actually do, because the banks don't want to take the risk with them, is maybe we have to put in some money and we have to go into a rent to own program. And just talking about housing, just to let the people know that this is a new initiative that housing will be doing now. But housing will also, and this is breaking news on Sandra's show today, housing will be actually starting to do housing repairs also now, moving forward too. So,
and that's also going to be done through the National Trust?
Not National Trust, but it will be in concept with the NAU program.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be working together, and then we've heard so many people that applied through the NAU service too that needed help with the from the Grace program that we had put in place there, and there's still a lot more. So this was just a way of housing getting in there now to be able to help them. We've got the contractors, we've got the project managers to help. So we said that we would actually government's actually put a certain 500K one side directly to do housing repairs, to try to get those numbers up and get those people that are dried in more or less, that houses have been leaking, and we know we got rainy season. And Sandra, for me, I walked into two homes, and I came and I said to the deputy premier, I said I was tired of going to a house where I see people bought a swimming pool and put up in their attic to catch the water, and to see houses that are that are leaking and kids are in there and the mold are growing. I said we had to do something to help these people. So that's when we came up and said, what, we'll get housing to start to do housing repairs. They got the whole program already running. So from next week on, you'll actually see notes that we'll be advertising for repairs also.
Hmm.
So that is actually
Okay.
breaking news this morning for you.
Yeah. So the idea then is that persons would apply. Do they have to be existing NAU clients, or even if they're not an existing NAU client, they could still somehow
No,
apply
they
for it?
don't have to be existing NAU clients.
Okay.
It could be just someone that just needs the help to do a certain amount of repairs to their
Hmm.
home, and they can apply directly to the housing.
Hmm. Wow, that's good news. All right, well, thank you for sharing that bit of breaking and exclusive information. So Vanessa is asking about the requirements for person who has a monthly salary of $4,500. I'm not sure if the minister has the exact requirements. So Vanessa, I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll extend an invite to Mr. Ramos, who will be in a better position as head of the National Housing Trust to give us all of those details for the housing programs that are available. So that's Mr. Julio. And I'm just messaging him right now before I forget. We'll have him come on the program and perhaps give details on qualifying, what program options they have specifically, and take it from there. Fair enough?
Actually, you're right, Sandra. I was actually going to be setting up Mr. Ramos to actually go out to the public just to give people a little bit more briefing because by the end of the year we're going to have a lot of homes starting to roll and move. So just to get people up to date of how they can actually apply
Hmm.
to get these homes. And as I said a week ago on OC's show, I would actually be starting to do a what I call a face to face with the people going from district to district with at least all of my ministries. And I know the deputy premier said that he would actually be coming on there with me to be able to talk about his side of what he actually does. And I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure that some of the other ministers would actually jump on board with this so that we can go. It's just a matter of getting back out there, facing the people, hearing what goods we've done for them and what they
Hmm.
see that we need to improve on and what do we think we need to do.
Yes.
It's just interacting back with the people.
Absolutely. So Sherry Ann says J.E. Banks is the MP who always answers his phone no matter what. Northside community should be very grateful for the good, productive performance. He's doing a great job. Keep the good work up for your amazing. And then unfortunately it got cut off. Miss Darlene is asking, how can most Caymanians going to pass the threshold if the minimum pay is so little? Have you had a chance, Minister, to review the recent? I know it's a massive document, but the information that came out of the statistics office for the oh gosh, what's it called now? For the survey.
Yeah,
Yes, that was done as it relates to to minimum wage. What percentage of Caymanians are at that minimum wage threshold, and who is it really impacting?
Sandra, to be honest with you, it is something that the government needs to really look into. Um, it actually, I don't want to go there and throw any numbers to have the government binding to anything, or they said, well, we should have a discussion about this before, because that's something really the premier should be talking about. But it is something that the government really needs to look into, and I do realize that a lot of people, a lot of Caymanians are behind there, but it is below the threshold of what the minimum wage is. But is it something that we just put minimum wage straight across the board, or is it something that we look at by sector and said that certain sectors are here? There's a lot of questions because with minimum wage going up, also starts to put up the cost of food and the cost of living and everything else that will be passed on. Because we know the consumers are definitely not going to want to eat that cost that they're going to be passing on.
Right. My apologies. This cough is still killing me a little bit here. So Maria's asking if government is going to be paying for housing repairs or is it a new company? So I think she came in at the tail end of that comment. So if you could just repeat that again for us, Minister, about this new initiative as it relates to housing repairs.
Yeah, it is a government run initiative, and as I said before, we've put 500K one side to actually go into and be able to help in housing repairs. It's just started We're getting ready just to roll it out next week, actually. So it's the first time that anyone's actually hearing about it, but we're talking about it right now. But it was just to be able to help those people that really in the need of help that just could not find that the resources or the finances to help with repairs to their homes or leak those that are leaking or just be able to get your house safe for hurricane season.
All right, we've got Lily, who says that she applied since Storm Grace, and she's had no luck with her MP. Sherry-Ann asked who's her MP. And she says, Sandra, please ask MP J.E. Banks why I never got any assistance for roof repairs since Grace. My MP never assisted. WhatsApp him, but never any action. And her MP is Sabrina. So how did they, I must admit that I wasn't really entirely familiar with how
so
the
what
Grace
happened with that is with those Grace, that is what has pushed me to actually get this housing in there because there was such a long threshold with the NAU that the NAU was catching up on what they had from previous years before they got to Grace, and we didn't realize the amount of number of people that we actually had in that queue to actually get there. So I think the NAU is just, I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think they're just caught up with a lot of their stuff now. That they're starting to look at those in Grace. And when me and Minister Andre spoke together, this was an initiative. I said, you know what? E-bikes from the west, e-bikes from the north, we come together and let's knock these housing repairs out that we have outstanding and get these in, get everybody dried in that are left. So if she is on that list, maybe what she could do is apply to the national housing now, and then what we could actually do is just let NAU know that national housing has her documentations, and we'll be sending out a contractor to look at her house for her.
Mm-hmm.
So we're both. It's both of us are working together, NAU and housing.
And housing. And another person sent in a message via WhatsApp, a question. They said, in terms of applying for the home repairs grant, is it an actual grant? Is that what we're calling it? But they said, do they have a salary cap? So what are the criteria then for people to qualify for this, and what sort of documentation is required?
No, are we talking about for the homes, or are we talking about for repairs? What was that?
For repairs.
For repairs.
Yes.
So
this new initiative.
Well, there wasn't any. I don't think we had any cap on it to say, well, who it was actually helped for. I mean, I assume that when the contractor goes out, we're not looking for people in Vista Del Mar and those areas to help, right? But it had to be at least, we were looking at those that had families, kids, and stuff like that first. What kind of damage was done to the house? What the living conditions? If there was a house that has a family with kids in there and there's mold and growing in the house, those people would get the priority first. Number one, leaking houses that have a lot of leaks in there will probably be more priority number one to get them all dried in. But again, I don't want to speak out of terms because that is it's something that it's a board matter, so the board will actually have to determine how they proceed to move forward with it. I'm just assuming from talking with them, this is the way that they will be looking at it.
Right. So if it's being done through NAU, is the application process still going to national housing? Because you said the board, so I'm just a little bit confused.
We're working and joining together, so you can actually apply to national housing, or you can apply to NAU service too. But what we do is once you come into our system, we'll send your name over to someone. We're not getting people both going here and going here at the same time, and we got two different contractors trying to take advantage and remodel the whole house. So once we mark off your name off of the list, your house has been done, your name will go over so that NAU knows that you have been, this is what has been done to your property, and it's been repaired, and so that then you don't go over to NAU and apply, and NAU comes back and send someone over to do your work too. We'll be definitely working very closely together to make sure we're getting everything, but you can apply in any direction that you prefer. If you're already in NAU, you can stay in that queue. If you're not in there, then you can apply over to housing. If you feel that you're not getting any assistance over that side, you want to come over to the housing side, you can do that, and then we'll send over everything else back to NAU, letting them know that we'll be assisting you with the housing repairs.
All right, very good. So Carmelie has just joined the conversation. Good morning to Carmelie. Questions, folks, 936 2626 is the regular phone number. And of course, you can send your messages via WhatsApp as well. We are pleased to have in the studio this morning the Honorable Jay Ebanks, who again is the MP for Northside and Minister for Planning, Agriculture, Housing, and Infrastructure. So you've been doing a bit of traveling, Minister, and we want you to have an opportunity now from the agricultural perspective to tell us what that has been about. So I know we touched on before on the program the fact that you have gone to Honduras. I think you made a recent trip to Jamaica as well, exploring some collaborative opportunities there. I do see Miss Maria is asking a question. She said, are different contractors being used, or is it just one company that these repairs will be referred to?
The housing program has about 20 or 30 different contractors that they use. So it would be one of their contractors that they have been using for the past because they've actually scored them and they have a good record with them actually be able to do completing the jobs for them.
Okay, so they already have a pool, Maria, of contractors that they work with. Jonathan says to build a house today, it's like $165 a square foot. So if anybody wants to build to keep to code, that's going to be the minimum.
Yeah, it seems about right.
All right. Good morning, Mr. George Fullerton. He says he's here, better late than never. So going back then to our question
So we
about
were talking
agriculture.
about
Yes.
getting into agriculture, going into the
Mhm.
Jamaica trip to Honduras and the whole works that was there. I know
Yes.
yes, we have actually been doing a lot with going back to Jamaica just to see how we could actually tackle food security for the country, because Jamaica is our closest neighboring brother, and how we can actually improve our agriculture sector here,
Mm-hmm.
um, and learning a little bit from Jamaica because they have similar soil to us, even though they've probably got a little bit better infrastructure with when it comes to the agriculture section because they at one point they have had to start all over and say, listen, we got to grow what we eat. They have a great program going over there, and I think it was easier for us as a team to kind of learn from them than trying to sit down and reinvent the whole wheel over when it came to agriculture and food
Mm-hmm.
security and be able to grow products over here. One thing that I'm really pushing forward is that we've seen a lot now is container farming and warehouse farming because hydroponics and it is actually the way to go. It could be a little bit expensive to start off with, but I've asked the deputy premier, and he's actually looking forward to putting some money into Cayman CIDB again to for farmers to be able to help assist them to get them up and going into certain areas of farming that we would like to see going. Container farming is probably one of the best because we don't have containers. You can put them just about on any property. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to prep your property. You can control the environment. You can it's free from pests. It's free from it's organic. It is the best way to grow anything, and a lot of the stuff you can actually grow all year long because you can
Mm-hmm.
control the environment, the temperatures from inside of there. Um, it's
Interesting.
something that I want to see rolled out within the schools also.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to see maybe if we could probably get it into the first two high schools to get it
Mm-hmm.
going to kind of get the kids more involved into that direction. We're also looking at maybe purchasing a container for the society to actually be able to put at the grounds down there so that we can actually have a training course for farmers to learn how to go into this because the the days of farming of getting out there pulling the bush and people thinking of in the hot sun and then hoeing and all this other stuff is totally gone from what you can actually sit behind your desk and look at your phone and basically control every single thing when it comes to growing it in a container, and you're going to grow it as fresh as you can get and as best as you can get. And the savings from it is going to be best because it's less waste in that, and the cost is actually less of time consuming from what you're going to put out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and that was a part of looking around and getting a tours of see how Jamaica has a lot of their stuff. going, and then also be able to do a little bit more trading with Jamaica with certain produce that they have that has been on a ban list with us for quite some time. That I must say, from the previous ministry had already almost started to look into this. So when I came in there, it was actually on sitting on my table to just continue on looking into it to see about opening up the country to trade for certain other you know types of we I think it was plantain and breadfruits and a bunch of other stuff that we listed. And the reason that they didn't do it at one point in time is because there was a disease going on with plantains at that time in Jamaica, and that's why they had them on a ban. But they have combated that disease that they've had, and the agriculture department feels that it's the right time now to open back up to do with them. But also, we had the opportunity to go down to visit their germ plaza that they have down there, because what we're having is a lot of farmers are saying that they want to be able to buy a lot more plants, a lot more suckers and stuff like that, and agriculture doesn't have. We never had a way to be able to keep up with it, if you ask me. So we're going to be importing some new plants to the island very shortly. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the main things a lot of people always said to me is, well, why we had a citrus problem on the island. It was actually a root disease that we've actually had when it came to citrus. But
Mm.
there's Mr. Rolando at I think it's Valley Nursery in Savannah has started to import lime trees from California, which
Mm.
are prone to this foot disease, this root disease that we've had. Sorry, does not bother these new lime trees that he has. So if anyone is actually looking at lime tree now, I would recommend that you go to him. He has about, I think, maybe 7 or 8 different types of limes that he actually can sell you. And it was being that he has actually went out and started this initiative of bringing them in himself. The society just decided to support his initiative instead of competing with him and bringing in. So we kind of send everyone out that want to get a lime tree or some kind of citrus tree to go down to Valley Nursery down there. Um, he's did the homework, and I can tell you it's amazing. The trees are producing, and it seems like that has been the combat of this disease, and it's a matter of just using another type of harder type of citrus tree and being grafted in um, to be able to beat this disease that we had.
Mm-hmm.
That's been the root killer of our lime trees, and also to let my farmers know out there that when I first came in, the farmers are saying it's years that they've been waiting on a excavator, and I've been told that the excavator is actually here in Grand Cayman. It's sitting at DVS. We bought a new excavator, a new jackhammer, so for clearing of farm properties to help the farmers be able to prep their property. And I have the talks with Sahari and long-standing farmers that have been in the business for 30 to 40 years, and told me that they have been hearing about that machine coming for 20 years now. And I said, well, it's finally reached to the island, and some other machinery that is here for the agriculture. So the agriculture is getting their equipment that they need to help those farmers that are saying that they are desperate in need. Um, we've brought in 2 shipment of cattle to the island. We've brought in a shipment of goats with over 200 goats to the island. And I think the society right now is actually bringing in another shipment of cattle very shortly. Um, but and then just to also touch base, Sandra, I know we talked about the Honduras trip. When we were
Mm-hmm.
in Honduras, when we went to Honduras, that was also about food security and actually be able to open up that line from down there. And I can tell you one thing when I was visiting Honduras is
Mm-hmm.
that although people may say that, well, the country may not be one of the best countries, or it may not be for value dollar, but I can tell you what, Honduras isn't starving when it comes to food. Their
Mm.
grocery stores are full with just about the best produce that you can get, juices, everything else, cuts of beef. Um, We've had actually one of the grocery stores have actually started to bring produce from that direction already, and we've actually just my team is actually working out the logistics part of it right now. But we think we've got a ship that will be sailing once a week coming out of Honduras from Puerto Cortez to
Mhm.
Rotan straight to Grand Cayman. He's guaranteed to try it out for a year to see if it picks up the work, which I do think it will work. Um, we've had a lot of vendors, a lot of people went down and are happy about that opening that shipping lane up. But also, I know a lot of people spoke about doing shipping out of Mexico, bringing produce from Mexico also. But the good thing is that the problem we had is to be able to get a shipping line directly from somewhere down in the South America to here. And from Mexico, there are ships that go from Mexico coming to Puerto Cortez, and there's ship that goes in from Panama to there. So it's a big shipping area. So anyone that doesn't want to go have to go through the American lean and taking that 16 to 21 days on flight, whatever it takes, or ship to go, is actually be able to could come down this direction and go south back up to Grand Cayman, which is just about a day sailing out of there to here. It
Mhm.
is going to make a huge difference. I can tell you value prices of not want to speak and say what store we were talking about, but we went to a directly one of the shops for that was butchering cattle for beef, and this beef factory actually do about they they slaughter about 250 cattle a day, and they supply beef throughout for the United States now, and they do also for Burger King and Wendy's at the same time for making beef their burgers. And I can tell
Okay.
you what, the the cuts that they're there. Looking back at the price, I know one of the top cut of steaks that was in Grand Cayman that was selling Grand Cayman at the time was about 60 CI. That cut down there was less than 10 US. And
Wow.
that's just comparing it.
And
And I can tell
the
you,
same quality beef, the same grade of
ab-
cattle.
absolutely, we
Mhm.
once we was there, we were able to go to a supermarket that the same owner owned, and he showed us around everything that he had there, and we were eligible to be able to pick out some of the best cuts that we saw. And he owned it on the second floor of his supermarket was a restaurant, and they were able to cook those cuts of beef for us. And I can tell you, there was nothing
Mhm.
different between that and anything else I've got into America or Grand Cayman.
So the
It was
idea behind, just to clarify, the move with Honduras, right? So we're looking at, because I mean, people say, well, do we have a food sustainability issue here in the Cayman Islands? So it's more a question of diversity, getting different products and crops, perhaps, as well as a reduction in the pricing of what we pay. And are we doing anything? Because a lot of times, what drives up the price is what we have to do to get it here, in terms of importing duty and other such things. So is there any
well,
reductions that we're going to see on that
the
end of things?
logistics if you talk to anyone at the supermarket, the logistics is probably the most expensive part of it, right? Is getting it here. But and the other thing too is just put it this way: you can get a gallon of milk here, where you could probably put on a shelf for 12 days, 12 or 2 weeks, and then versus where if you get a gallon of milk coming out of the U.S., the shelf life is about 7 days before they have to throw it away.
Mhm,
Um, because of the span of the time that it's actually taking to get from port A to port B. Let us not fool ourselves. A lot of the stuff, the food that is going to America is coming from South America. The big merchants are actually buying up a lot of the land. They're growing the produce down there. They're raising the animals down there. They're doing everything down there because it's cheaper for them to do it down there, and then they're shipping it to the U.S. So what we're getting is we're getting all the produce crossing us and then coming back to us. So you figure anything is usually on sailing, you know, at least 12 days from what I've been told from some of the supermarkets before they're getting it. Um, I know a lot of people don't like change, but
Mhm.
if we want to be able to say that we want to be able to do protect ourselves and have other options, then these are the doors that we have to knock on to be able to do that. And
Mm.
it's going to take people to have to make a change to be able to say, I know something worked for 20 years for you, yeah, but
Mhm.
now you gotta go and make new friends with someone else in South America to learn that they're. But the one thing that we wanted to guarantee is consistency, consistency, consistency. We had to
Yeah.
make sure that
The
whatever you
quality.
got, they had to
Yeah.
be able to deliver that on time when
Right.
we needed it, continuing. And
Yeah.
everyone we spoke to down there was actually on board with be able to supply
Yeah.
us. And anyone that we actually went to was already supplying the United States at that also.
Mhm. Because of course the local grocery providers and stuff that we have spoken to here, they've said that is one of the biggest reasons why they have, I guess, maintained their connections with the US market, is that they never have an issue getting what they need. Because they've got relationships that have been established for maybe 25, 30 years or even more, depending on how long they've been in the grocery business. And even if it might not be, because everybody has had chain supply issues during COVID. So even if it wasn't like a particular brand, they've got buyers and resources where, if they had to route a shipment through Mexico to be able to get it to Cayman, they had those
Yeah.
connections, those reliable connections. So as you say, reliability is very, very important, because if people
Yes.
can't get the products when it's needed, we've got, empty shelves and those types of
Well,
supply issues, then it's a problem.
just think about it right now. We're having that. They're having that problem right now with some of the people that they're dealing with. They've been dealing for 20 years now.
Yeah. Well,
There's,
I
there's
mean,
certain things that you go, you
listen,
can't find on the shelf.
yeah,
Let's
it's
not fool
it's
ourselves. Remember when we were trying to get our stuff out of US with our face masks? Remember when they turned the ship around that time and brought it back in there because they weren't selling things, right? It's only a
yep.
matter of time when some people get where food security becomes their issue. They got to take care of their
Mhm.
people.
Yeah,
So
for
having a
sure.
second option is never too bad.
No, 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 for sure. Now, of course, one of the concerns when we start to open up additional routes is there's always not just the reliability factor, but how are we ensuring, operating from one port to the next, that other things that we do not want into our country, such as drugs, are not, and not just drugs, but even unwanted pets. The iguana problem that we have here in Cayman, the green iguana, is not something that's native to the Cayman Islands. That is something that was imported, and I understand that the route that it most likely came through was actually through Honduras. So how do we ensure the safety of our products, that we're getting top-notch quality, and then in addition to that, that we're not importing anything that we don't intend to import as well?
Well, I think most of the stuff that we already looked at is already USDA approved to go to the
Right.
United States. So if it can go to the United States, I'm pretty sure it can ship directly to here without any
Mhm.
problems. Um, as to talk about the iguana, I'm gonna put it back. Then when the iguana got here, it was coming by a small vessel, and someone probably bought it as a pet. And that's how it got in here at the
Mm.
time. But the war on drugs and the war on and guns and coming in is something that we just have to deal with, Sandra. We got to make sure that we have a strict port. We've invested in our new scanners coming into our port. So I've actually had a one-on-one to be able to see how they actually scan every container going through, that's coming off of the port going in there. And I must say, I think I must applaud the deputy premier for pushing that initiative and getting that scanner up and going. It has been working flawless. It's been great. I think so. It's like anything else. We got to continue improving. But do we allow that one thing? I mean, let's go back to when we open up cement. That was the one thing that they said about cement. That's why we could. That's why they didn't want cement to be open up nowhere else.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or it was because if you started to deal with Colombia, and then on Honduras and other places, there was a potential that drugs could come in there. Well, there's potential that drugs can come from Mexico, anywhere else, Jamaica, any other countries. What's the difference now? What's the difference with the United States? It is us.
Mhm.
It is us to secure our port here to make sure that anything that comes in here, we receive it, we deal with it here. So it doesn't care. I don't care where if it's coming from Timbuktu. We got to
Mhm.
make
Mhm.
sure that whatever's coming in here is going to be secure. That's coming in and,
And
and dealt
everything
with the
is
right
checked.
way.
Yes.
Yes,
Good.
absolutely. Anything that passes us by is a shame on us.
Mm-hmm.
Because our port is our number one area that we should have secure at any given time.
Very true. All right. Good morning to Shirley. She says, good morning. Perla says, I applied to NAU a few years ago and they wanted a lot of information from me, like what's my ex-spouse's name? When was I divorced, etc. I was so frustrated going there because of these personal questions. I talked to an MP and SOD. I don't know what SOD means, but
Saunders.
Sorry.
I assume that's
Oh,
Mr.
maybe she
Saunders
meant
you're talking about.
Saunders. I talked to an MP and Saunders, maybe, yeah. And that should not happen. Why isn't you asking all these questions and they give a hardship to us, most Caymanians, to get the real help we need? So she says in another note, they're always saying that you're missing this and that document. And if they have a list of recommendations to support the application, that should be more efficient. So I know that NAU is going through a significant overhaul. We were trying to get the minister, actually, Mr. Andre Ebanks, on the program tomorrow, but unfortunately he's unavailable. So next week might be the opportunity, Perla, to have some of those questions answered, because NAU does not fall under.
Sandra, I can tell you, I know Minister Andre has been working very hard with NAU, and there's very shortly you guys are going to see a huge change when it comes to NAU to making things a lot better, streamlining it, and just getting you in and out of the door a lot quicker. And I'm telling you what, I am pleased with what I've seen Mr. Andre done. I'm very supportive of it. I actually can't wait to actually to see him start to roll the system out and getting it down to the house for us to actually show our support behind him with what he wants to do there. But I won't get into depth, because if you say he's on there next week, he'll definitely cover what he thinks he can cover to let you guys know right away.
Yeah, so Perla, definitely there are some major changes coming. They did have a press release in relation to it last week. And so we hope that next week we can go through some of those details with a real fine-tooth comb. But what I would say, and in defense of NAU, is normally they're asking these types of questions for a reason. So they have applicants who are not always forthcoming to them. And just by way of an example, you might think it's a personal question, but they might have to verify whether or not you are entitled to any spousal support or child support payments through the court system. And the only way they can know that is by getting the name of your ex-husband or ex-spouse, and then cross-referencing that with those respective agencies. So I think a lot of times it's just to verify information and to confirm different sources of income, because you will have people who go into NAU who are unemployed and say that, they need assistance because they're unemployed, but yet they're getting an income from somewhere else. They have rental apartments, they have an ex-spouse that's paying them thousands of dollars a month or whatever. So, when you have to utilize services such as NAU, you can expect personal questions, is what I would say, Perla. And it's probably not that unusual for that to happen across, all jurisdictions in the world. It is what it is. So Jonathan is saying, I'm hoping that they can double the amount of fruit trees at the next agriculture show. So when are we having, do we have it confirmed that we're going to have a next agricultural show? Would that be next year, early next year?
Agriculture show will be on our Ash Wednesday, and I can tell you guys that the society is actually just starting to put together a new, fresher team.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking at a different approach. This agriculture show is going to be a total different show. You guys will be very pleased and happy to see what's going to happen. I think we're going to extend it on a little bit maybe a little bit bigger. I don't want to speak out of terms with it and drop too many hints with it, but I can guarantee you that there's going to be a whole change with it. There are going to be some ministers that we're inviting from around the Caribbean region that will actually be here with us for our agriculture show too. So we'll there's a lot going. There's going to be a lot going on for our show this year, I can tell you.
Wow, nice. All right. Miss Rosita says, good morning, Miss Sandy and my MP. Keep the good works up. We're very proud of you. Perla says, when applying to these things, do we have to be married? I had to be married to get through a housing in Cayman. Please verify this if this is the case, or the salary may vary for the individual or couples. So I'm assuming this is in relation to National Housing Trust and housing. Is there any criteria that you have to be married versus it's just a salary criteria?
Absolutely not. There's no, I mean, as long as you, only thing I would think is if you're actually was you had your boyfriend with you and you guys combined together could make the criteria. That would be more
Hmm.
probably why they were saying that. But you do not have to be married to get a house there. That's absolutely not. It's based off of what your salary is.
All right, very good. So Mr. Dean is joining us this morning. He says, blissful morning to everyone in the CMR community. Irvlin's got it. I'm sorry, Soka is joining us from Miami, Florida. Jonathan's saying, coming, where can I get it? what what are you referring to, Jonathan? Maria is asking if these trees are GMOs. I
I assume you're probably talking about the
the
lime
lemon
trees. I
lime
assume.
trees, yeah.
Yeah, I am not 100% sure on that. No, I can find
Okay.
out and get back to that.
Hmm. So, Quality Farming says, when is the department going to encourage young Caymanian farmers, especially females, to reach commercial farming? Know that they have such a huge amount of plants already. What support are we entitled to? So, speaking of support on the farming side, I know that there was some sort of program that was being run through the agriculture department, and then there was a pause on that program. And I think they were re-registering these local farmers. Can you tell us a little bit about where that is? Has it completely restarted? Because I think some sort of assistance was being provided. They could get like free soil and other stuff. I
Yeah,
only know a little bit about it because my husband does backyard farming.
yeah. There were some changes to determine what was a backyard farmer to a commercial farmer, and then we
Hmm.
had initiative going out where we're trying to get as much database that we could get on there. So now we've launched out a system where hopefully very shortly we can actually invite you guys into so that the media can see it, but we can actually click on time on live and be able to see any farmer what they're actually doing at their farms and be able
Hmm.
to tell you exactly how many trees that farmer has on his property, what type of trees he has on there, their whole database, so that when we know if we get someone that calls in and says, well, they're looking for tomatoes or something, we can send them directly to this one.
Hmm.
One of the other things that we're running, a new program that we're running is our initiative, is our egg program that will actually be running very shortly. We figure that we can actually, egg is probably one of the quickest things that we think we can sustain ourselves on the island. So the government has pushed a lot behind this program. We have certified, and we've worked with all of the grocery stores. They've actually came in and given us their input and how they would like to see it cartoned. We're bringing in the expertise to show the farm egg farmers how to handle their eggs and the whole and what else help supply them with any type of materials, washers or freezers that they would actually need to be able to hold chillers to keep their eggs in and roll this program out very shortly. And I think we can, when the program hits the market, we think it could actually probably do about 30 to 40% of what we actually bring in right now. And once it actually gets going, we think we can actually, within a year or two, we'll be able to hit
Hmm.
that 100% mark where all of our eggs will be able to be locally grown here. We won't have to worry about importing any eggs anymore. And the cartons will be is very nice. It has a Cayman logo on it, and it actually has a little logo where the farmers can put their farm logo saying which farm it actually came from and
Hmm.
barcodes and everything else on it. So the grocery stores have worked with us and said, hey, this is how we would like to see labels and how it
Hmm.
worked out. And they're happy to get on board to push this program. I must thank them. They from the get go, they have been excited and helped us with it, and we look forward to rolling that egg program out very shortly. Um, there's just to get back on the other one is we actually do training courses. We've been putting on a lot of training courses for backyard farmers, and I've been positive results on it. A lot of people have been asking me to, hey, can you put on another course in this? Because they've learned so much when it comes to backyard farming with these training programs.
Hmm.
And one thing I've asked the society just this weekend and the agriculture department is I've been getting a lot of younger ones that want to be able to go into the butchering side of it. And they said, we want to learn, younger kids want to learn how to do the butchering. So we're trying to figure out how we can put a program together to come in and teach those younger ones how to get into the butchering, because that is something that not too many Caymanians are left in. Our forefathers knew how to do it, and I think once we started to get into where we carried everything to the agriculture to get it slaughtered, the the looks of it and the passing down the knowledge of actually how to do that has been lost in that generation. So that is something that we're looking into of because I've had about at least 12 young kids that told me that that is something that they would love to learn how to get into.
Mhm. All right, very good. So we got a couple more questions and comments as we start to wrap things
So
up a little bit with the minister. A lot of people asking about these lime trees and where they can get those lime trees from. So, are they available yet? Are they coming?
yes, they are. And I think he just brought in a new shipment of lime trees also, and um, I'm pretty sure he may not. I can get his number to give it out on the thing on the live here, because I'm pretty sure
Okay.
he's that's not going to bother him, because he'll be selling a lot of lime trees. Because everyone's been asking me about lime trees. Where can they get one? Why is it they're not growing?
Right.
And this has been we did the research, and he has actually been proven to bring in. He's brought in several shipments already, and fast as he get them here on the ground, they're selling them out.
Wow, that's fantastic. And
So
being a farmer, this is a little bit of a reality check moment, but being a farmer and selling produce locally is not cheap. So I just want to remind people that when we talk about, supporting local farmers and even the local farmers that are out there, they know the cost involved in bringing a crop to fruition, and they have to price it accordingly. They should also know, because I know Foster's and all the grocery stores do their best to carry as many local products as they possibly can. But the
yes,
end consumer has to appreciate that that means that you're probably going to be paying a premium price, but you're guaranteeing a certain quality, or that it's pesticide free, it's organic, and so on.
organic, you're
So
getting a lot better product. Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
make
you're
sure,
absolutely right.
yeah, make sure you definitely keep those things in mind, folks.
Sandra,
And
one thing that also wanted to touch base on with when it
Mhm.
came to farming is we I've been one thing I've been working on is that farm lease program, and our property up in the East End where has been purchased from I think about 20 years ago, and we have our lease a farm lease policy just about ready to go rolled out. The government actually will be getting a first glance of it in cabinet very shortly, and if it's approved with them, we'll be rolling that out and be able to open up some of the farmlands that we have in East End to be able to lease back to farmers. If it's my way, I would say I would probably lease it as a peppercorn lease, because for me, I prefer. I just want to get farmers out there for food security to be able to grow certain produce that we were, so that we don't have to bring in as many that we have. We can try to suffice of what we're getting to grow. So getting as many people out there growing produce is the main key. Because if you talk to a lot of people, they say, "Hey, I would love to start to grow this and that, but I can't. I just can't. I don't have the land. I can't afford to
Mhm.
buy land to do it either. But if I had a property that I could lease, I would definitely lease it to be able to grow in, scallions or whatever else that I would love to grow on. And not everyone has to go into suckers and growing plantains and bananas. I mean,
Mhm.
people can grow people can grow scallions and a lot of other herbs and stuff like that. I mean, when I was in Jamaica, there was fields. There was a 10-acre section where that's all they grew was just scallion. Then you had on the
Mhm.
other side where they all just grew thyme on one side and everything for another 10
Mhm.
acres of thyme there. Um, so there's areas like that that we can do that people can tap into where they don't have to compete with everyone and try to get the best buck for this one and best buck for that one. But also, Sandra, there's some law changes that we're going to be bringing coming shortly too for the agriculture, where theft has become a. I always take my hat off to farmers because I said they had the hardest life to deal with, because they
Mm.
have the rodents, they have the iguanas, they have the pesticides, and then they have the two-legged thief that's always out there raiding
Yep.
their farms, right? Nobody knows how hard it is to be a farmer. And I can tell you what. So we're bringing stiffer penalties, and hoping that we give identification tag license. Whereas you're not licensed, if you don't have that license, nobody should actually be buying. None of the grocery stores or none of the supermarket or restaurants should be buying anything from you unless you can produce that license. Because what we're having is you can go and buy something from a farmer from someone off the road, but he goes into someone's farm and take it. He doesn't know what that farmer just sprayed it with, and then he sprayed it with a chemical, and he goes and sells it to you. You don't know what chemical's been sprayed onto it. You eat it, and then you become sick from it, or worse, as you can pass away from it because of
So people are stealing and then selling it for like a business, not just on the roadside.
Absolutely.
But yeah, wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it seems that from listening to the farmers, the police hasn't been doing much about it. So it's up to us now to put some more teeth in the law from the agriculture side of it, to be able to help the police force to be able to try to knock this down. So that will be rolling some definitely big changes out in the farm for the farmers very shortly when it comes to that.
All right, we do have some more questions and comments coming in. So we have Gwen saying, can you ask the minister what plans we can get in place about the export of the turtle shell products from our turtle farm? Because right now we throw it all away.
I'll have to pass that on to the premier and ask him to answer that, because as far as I know, I think there is some trading ban, world ban about trading of love turtle shells.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything we can probably do about that, Gwen. And I think Soka confirms it when she says they won't be going into the U.S. exploiting endangered animals as a no-no. Yes. So remember, Gwen, that although we eat turtle meat, that is still a very controversial product around the world. But there are other aspects of, I guess, turtle harvesting or farming or whatever that would not be permitted, because you're not going to have a market for it outside of the Cayman Islands. And if it's an international ban, we might be subject to that as well.
Absolutely.
So Anthony says one concern is the quality standards are proved acceptable. So I think the minister has addressed that already in terms of food imports. Miss Darlene says, Sandy, the minister is right. The USA gets the majority of their produce and foods from places such as Jamaica, Honduras, Costa Rica, etc. And then we purchase the same from the US, source them directly, and save money. So hopefully that will be the idea. Perla says, do you all know that iguanas are vegetarian animals? It's a healthy meat, but everyone knows that Honduras eats it. So I think we're well aware, because they're always eating our fruit trees, as George rightfully says. Yeah. They eat his custard apples and mangoes, hate them. Yes, listen, anytime we see them around here, they're always in Marlon's garden, child. And I almost stepped on one. I think I might have stepped on him because his tail detached. Oh my God. Oh, give me the bejeebers. But yeah, so where's Denny, by the way? I told Denny he needs to come and find that juvenile iguana for me. We need to keep up the iguana culling, because it doesn't take much for them to resurge. So El Rey is asking if Ash Wednesday is going to actually fall on a Thursday next year. Is it a leap year next year? Why would it fall on a Thursday?
I'm not sure.
Then do we still call it Ash Wednesday?
I'll have to look at that to see, but as far as I know, we're on a Wednesday for the Ash Wednesday. We'll see.
Soka says they also eat agoutis. Iguanas eat agouti? Really? Ew. All right. Well, I mean, we eat agoutis too, so I guess maybe I really shouldn't be saying ooh, but okay. Lily has a question. She says, forgot to mention that my MP Sabrina Turner, who never dealt with my roof repairs, sends grace. I need the help as I'm sick and no job. MP Turner, please look after your people. Oh, okay. Well, we will certainly send MP Turner that message. She was on the show a couple days ago, Lily. It's too bad that you missed her appearance. And by all accounts, she's actually been doing a really good job. So I'm not really sure what's going on with your specific situation. Again, it's probably not her that is personally responsible for it.
I don't think you can blame Ms. Turner directly for that, Ms. Lily, but I've written your name down. But I think what happened is just that the long queue of people that NAU has had, right? And I mean, as I said before, they have actually just gotten through those that were there from the previous years, and now they were starting to look at those that are in grace in the storm grace. So, I'm not saying that it's in the board's hand, so I could not blame Miss Turner for that. That is absolutely not the right thing to blame her for. It is actually just the process that it's going through and the amount of people that is there, and that's why, as I said before, that's why we jumped up to wanting to help and join Minister Andre to try to knock these out as quickly as we can and get
And
people
one of the
driving.
important things, and thank you for that clarification, because I must say, one of the important things that I always try to remind people of when people run to their MPs and say, oh, I want this person to do this and whatever, you have to recognize that there are limitations to what an MP can do, especially if there's another party that's responsible for that, another board, and so on. Recently, someone approached me, again, Ministry of Health and Wellness always gets a lot of requests. And they said, that this individual was sick. He had gone, I think, to the HSA, and there was some sort of mix-up story about his care. Eventually, he ended up at Health City, no insurance, and the bill is creeping up. And they're like, why doesn't Sabrina just give him Cynical coverage? And I said, well, first of all, she can't just do that. I mean, you all have to stop this mentality of thinking that your MPs can give you insurance, that they can call Cynical and direct to Cynical how to handle their applications or direct things to NAU, because the irony of it is the same things that you argue and curse and go on about MPs potentially interfering, or, well, I heard that this one got helped with an application because the minister called in and whatever, is the same things you all turn around and ask them to do. And you can't have your cake and eat it too. Aunt Lottie had it right. You can't have it both ways. So there has to be a delineation between responsibilities. So if NAU has a process, an application process that you have to go through to receive those particular benefits, that's the process. And the person said to me, well, this minister from West Bay, called and she said, yeah, she's going to fix it, blah, blah. And I said, again, this is where sometimes new ministers, or not ministers, but new MPs get really overzealous and they think that they can do this and they think they can do that. This person's my constituent, so I'm going to make a big stink about it. And it has to go through the correct protocol and the correct process. And the last thing you want as an MP, and I'm actually talking to MPs right now, is to make your constituents believe that you have such powers as being able to get them Cynical insurance, being able to get them NAU assistance. They have to go through the exact same process as everybody else in this country.
Absolutely. You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct with that. And another thing that a lot of people think that MPs has the magic wand for is hiring of
civil servants. Yes.
In there. And that's far from the truth. We do not have if that was the truth, I can tell you we would actually be probably in debt, because every MP would be hiring everyone that they could put in the
building. Yeah. And there's good reason why you don't want that form of nepotism. I mean, there's a potential that some of it happens in any event. So, the rules are there, the checks and balances are there, folks, for a reason. So stop trying to, just because it's now going to benefit you, stop trying to step and blur the lines, right? So in this country, we want to talk about accountability, good governance, and all of these things. It has to apply in every single situation. So yes, this poor man is now, his bill is going up, whatever, but the correct protocols have to be, she can't just make a phone call and be like, oh, give him Cynical coverage. There's lots of questions that might have to be asked and answered before we even get to that stage in terms of, what his assets are and other stuff. He's getting the care, and eventually somebody will have to pay for the bill. And I'm sure that's going to be sorted out, because trust me, physicians get their money at the end of the day. Ms. Sue is asking about Foster's chicken costing so much. So maybe we'll send that through to Woody. Thank you, Miss Gladys. Debbie's here. Al Ray, he's a joker this morning. He says, will the eggs be more expensive than the foreign ones? Emphasis on egg expensive. Debbie says, let's start slaughtering animals and become vegetarians. Her and Soka are going to be best friends after that comment. And Perla says, I think a few schools are doing some planting of veggies, such as sweet potatoes. Prospect was doing it. Not sure if it's still ongoing. And I think that that's a fantastic initiative at teaching young people how to, because there's so many things that you can do. You mentioned, Minister, earlier in the program about using containers. Even in your house, you can have little grow boxes. You can do hydroponics, in a kitchen.
Yeah,
You can grow your herbs and seasoning, and outdoor
absolutely.
gardening is a little bit different, but you've got to contend
And
with.
some of these stuff here, I'm actually going to be tasking the agriculture to start to be able to bring in so that we can actually help those that want to do backyard farming to be able to put, they can come there to buy it. Because that's another thing is that
Mhm,
people say, well, we would love to do that, but we don't have no way of getting it, or do we just buy it from overseas and bring it in?
mhm.
Yes, so we're looking in to be able to carry some of these things that you guys can come there directly to get them and help set
Right.
up, but then also maybe get a quick crash course from the agriculture department on how it's actually run, and what's the best way to actually
Mhm,
continuing to get your bang for the buck out of it, the best out of it. Um,
mhm,
there was another question I saw it popped up there.
mhm.
Um,
We've got some Shirley who says that she's recently started backyard farming. Very good. Uh, Ms. Vernita, stick that question until hopefully next week when the NAU folks come on. Was it about the eggs? No.
um,
Vegetarians? Us becoming vegetarians?
Oh, it's actually about the egg. Yes, correct. About the eggs being more expensive. That was something too that we had to work out between the farmers and the grocery stores, because we want to be able to make sure that our local people are able to afford these eggs, and to make this program a success, it had to be at the right price range. So it will be competitive with what's actually being brought in right now in that area. But again, that if you want to get organic, you have to be able to, it's or anything organic, you're going to pay a little bit more for it than what you're getting now. And you're going to get a better tasting quality egg by
Mhm,
buying what we have than knowing
absolutely.
if it's something that's been sitting on a shelf for you know weeks before.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Well, some good participation and lots more questions coming in. Looks like, Minister, you better not be a stranger around here because
See
people have got
that?
lots of questions for you. But we do have another guest who is scheduled to come on, a part of our Consumer Thursday segment. So, Minister J.E. Banks has been here this morning. Oh my gosh, so many additional questions and comments. Thank you guys so much.
You may have
Appreciate
to send
it.
some of these questions directly to me, and then I could probably answer them and send them back to you, whatever,
Yes,
because they're just popping in faster than I can read them right now.
for sure. Um, So Jessica has one question that's quite good. Are the MPs looking into forming a board for rental apartments and homes? We're all dying out here. Some of these prices are just too much. And the rules, although some are reasonable, some are just plain ridiculous. So is there any sort of, you know, um, almost like a mediation board or anything being considered for people in the rental space?
Well, I can tell you, just last or 2 weeks ago, we just put a task force together to start to look at that under the watch of the premier, being the chair of the board of it, leading forward to start to look into these rentals and watch actually more of how we can actually affordable be able to people affording homes, what we have to do to be able to get the price point down, and what and to whatever it takes to get these rental markets under control. So there is a board that's actually together, and it's built of civil servants and members of parliament uh, that are overlooking that, oversighted, but chaired by the premier.
All right, very good. Okay. Thank you. Anthony says that's for sure long overdue. I think he was referring to your visit. So he'll be back now that he's gotten over the initial hump. He'll be back. CC says, as a seaman and an ex-police officer that has served for many years, the least they can do is give him the referral to Health City because in this case the HSA was negligent. You gotta be careful with those type of words. CC, the HSA might send you a letter. Who sends a senior with a blood clot in his knee home, and any blind person can see he was in major pain. So why send him home when they begged to be admitted because he felt safer? So if he's an ex-police officer and a seaman, he should have insurance options.
Should have had
So, yeah, he should automatically have insurance options, probably for
it.
life. So this story sounds a bit strange. So I'm not quite sure what we might be missing some of the details. Jonathan is begging everyone to plant at least 2 different fruit trees this year. I'm trying to get an avocado tree. Well, not me personally, but I told Marlon, get an avocado tree going. He's already planted my small Cayman mangoes, which I love. And so, yes, we got a full garden situation. We got plantains too. Oh my God, local plantains are divine.
Yes, they are.
Suzette, good morning to you. She says that we desperately need a proper landlord and tenant law and guide. Yes, that has been on the books, I think, for quite some time.
It has been on the books, and I can tell you that it's something that I've asked a question about too, and I know that we will be starting to look at that somewhere down the road too. We have to look at it. It is a must. We've heard too much the rumors out there. I don't even want to spell them back out, but
it's crazy
how the tenant laws have been going.
Yes. All right, my dear. Thank you so much, sir, for coming onto the program. We are going to bid you adieu at this point in time, but remember the invitation is open. We have Impact Wednesdays. Anybody from the PAC government can come on Wednesday and tell us all the wonderful things that you guys are doing. If Wednesday doesn't work for you, we'll shift it like we did today to Thursday. So we appreciate you taking the time, Minister, out of your schedule, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I will actually get my team to actually get out and set some times with you so that for the next show. But I can definitely tell you that it's something that I think that I owe the people to make sure to come back out to talk to them. I just like to interact with them and get their questions, because there's maybe things that I've been overlooked or haven't heard about yet that they are bringing to my attention that we really need to be jogging down and taking note of and moving forward with certain things. That's why I want to have this face-to-face with the people going forward. Very shortly, I'll send out the dates, and I'm hoping that we will get you to streamline all of our time frames when we're going out in our events that we're going to have going forward. And I tell you, it'll be just giving an update from the government, what's happening, what's going forward, but then also having their views and opinions at the same time. And we look forward to starting it from north side to east and working our way back out, and then hopefully ending it in the Cayman Brac.
All right.
But there's so many more things that I have to talk about on other topics. We have planning, NRA, DVDL, stuff that's happening in there, but we'll save them for the next show. But I do thank you all. God bless everyone in Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac. And I do thank the people of Northside for giving me the opportunity to sit here and represent them. It has been a wonderful journey so far. I've enjoyed every bit of it. And the one thing is be able to see fruitful things coming out of this and be able to get back to the people and be able to make the lives of the people of this country a lot better. That is my main goal here, is to make sure that we have we deliver what our people want, get back to the basics, and help the people and try to improve their lives. That's it. That's me. That's what I'm here for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Again, see you next time. Take care.
Okay, fantastic. All right, folks, that was the minister. Like I said, more questions coming in, so hold those until the next show, and we'll have him back on the program. So let's take a quick break. I know Soka's listening, and I had this queued up for yesterday. So before we transition and bring our next guest on the program, I want to play this first Soka's privilege. Don't forget, folks, if you're part of the Filipino community or you have family in the Philippines, Miracle Brokers is now accepting boxes. You got to get them in by next week because there's a deadline for the shipment to leave to be able to arrive in the Philippines on time and be cleared. So, get your shipments together for Christmas. I think this may be the last shipment that's actually leaving for the year. $65, starting at $65, you can have your boxes up to 200 pounds put together, put in the container. They're loading the container as we speak. So do not miss out.
Hi, para sa mga kababayan dito sa Cayman Islands. Ito na naman ang oras ng taon. Ihanda ang inyong mga Christmas box para ipadala sa Pilipinas. Simula sa $65 para sa isang solong 200 pounds box, ito ay deal ng Miracle Brokers para sa lahat ng residente ng Cayman. Ang lalagyan ay on-site at handa nang i-load at ang deadline ay sa katapusan ng buwan. Sa limitadong espasyo, kailangan mong kumilos ng mabilis. Makipag-ugnayan kay Kuya Romy ngayon sa 345-916-0355.
In the mornings, no one wants to miss listening to the Cold Hard Truth or reading CMR. Cayman's #1 news platform has made your morning commute fun again. Pass this time with the Cold Hard Truth on weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Talk radio that's engaging, entertaining, and enlightening. But be careful. Some mornings it's so hot, you might run into a bit of trouble.
the eulogy, which will be delivered by the daughter of the departed, Susan.
I just want to say a few words about my dad, to whom I owe so much.
Excuse me.
Yes?
But at the risk of sounding pedantic, it's to whom I owe so much, not who.
Is it?
Who is a subject pronoun. Your father is evidently the object of the sentence, therefore one should use the object pronoun, namely whom. Pray, continue.
Where to begin? There's so many things we all loved about him.
There are so many things, plural.
First, I'd like to start by...
Firstly...
What?
Firstly is more formal, so...
I can't believe you're interrupting me. Everyone here is completely disinterested in what you have to say.
Is uninterested. Disinterested means impartial. One has to respect the departed, not to mention the English language.
More than anything else, I remember my father's sense of humour. Whether he was at work or down the local pub, he would always be holding court, and people would literally laugh their heads off.
I doubt it.
What?
I doubt they would literally laugh their heads off. That their heads would have become detached from their bodies. It seems highly unlikely that your father would ever have said anything that funny.
Vicar, you and me are going to fall out.
You and I, let's not forget our personal turmoil in a day such as today.
For goodness sake, you're putting me off.
No, I'm not putting you off. That would end the sentence with a preposition. I'm being off-putting.
How dare you do this to me? I am grieving. That is my father down there.
Was. Past tense, he's dead.
You've ruined today for everybody. Now you just lay there and think about what you've done.
Not lay, lie. You shouldn't use the transitive.
Big shout out to Soka again. That is a little video for her this morning. She's always on this platform correcting all of us in terms of our English and grammar. And so Soka, there you go. we sympathize with that young lady trying to have some comments on her father and the priest constantly correcting her. And yeah, you see what happened to him. She slapped him into the grave with the father. So a little bit of humor. Let's go ahead and transition. Melita says, yep, that's Soka right there. So if you get it, you get it. Thank you so much, Tracy. Appreciate you logging in today. Thank you, Denver, for tuning in. So we have a young man. I'm going to ask him to pull his camera down a little bit because it looks like I'm looking at the top of your head, who is joining us this morning to talk about some of the issues that he has been having in relation to a license application with government. So we're going to try to break this down. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm okay. And you?
Yes, we're very, very good. Thank you so much for coming on the program. So I want you to take your time. We've got about a half an hour left in the program, but you having a bit of a situation that requires some explaining. Let me just pull you back in there. There we go. That requires some explaining in terms of what you've been going through. So tell us who you are and then what the situation is.
Okay. Can I read a word of prayer first before?
Sorry, say that again.
I would like to just read a word of prayer before we get into it.
Okay. All right. Sure.
Morning, Heavenly Father, as we enter into this discussion, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Let it be edifying to those who suffer the same fate as I have suffered. Maybe they don't have a voice to speak, or not bold enough to speak, or the fighting spirit. Thank you for what you have done for me so far through this struggle. In your son's name, we pray as we ask you to extend your blessing to the host. Amen.
Beautiful.
Okay. I'm Ryan Bernard, better known in the Cayman Islands as English. I am a Jamaican national. I later ties in Trinidad, and I attended the St. James High School. I'm officially from Montego Bay. I attend the St. James High School. That's St. James High, and I went out to the Seaford Town Vocational Training Center, where in total of my studies there in electrical installation, industrial, commercial, and residential, I achieved a level 1, level 2, and a level 3, which is a diploma. After I finished that last study, I went to Trinidad and Tobago to visit my aunt. There I engaged in another year and 6 month study, which was evening classes 2 times per week. I did sit the exam for electrical license there because we have the CARICOM trade agreement where we can travel from Caribbean to Caribbean and study. Do whatever you please. And I achieved, after doing the exam 3 times, finally I was successful. I then applied to Mr. Carlos Powell, which owns a company, Mr. Electric. And I was offered employment here. When I came, nothing was provided for me. I was left floating, a place to stay, transportation, and we had a fallout. I wrote an official letter to the immigration, asked to him and also to the immigration, asking him to give me a letter of release, and I also submitted to the immigration. Subsequently, I was released, but the manner in which I was released from him was a discriminating manner. He asked for his properties, which was his uniform shirt, and I met him on West Bay Road, gas station near the bridge. He owed me $250. He presented it to me in a brown envelope, but he threw it on the ground and said something about Jamaicans. I don't want to repeat it. I picked the money up and that was it. Then I canceled the permit there and I went on to Nico Electric. And I ended up working at West Bay under Nico's company with Merlin Wells. This was a gentleman that signs in on the job in the morning, and for the rest of the day, he wasn't on the job. So happened that the site superintendent came there and asked, where is he? And I said, I don't know. That's typical Jamaican. What don't concern him? Doesn't concern him. So he walked in. I was at the route of the supervisor, and he said, whenever you need materials, here is my number, call me. Mr. Wells was walking in at the same time, and he said, here he is. The gentleman didn't say anything to him. When he left, he said to me, do you have an electrical license? And I said, yes. He said, did you transfer it? I said, no. He said, why? He said, because you are a senior electrician, and I'm working under your supervision, so you supersede what I'm doing. He said, it's not like that in the Cayman Islands. I said, that's how I read it in the book. He said to me that it was a to and fro, yes and no. And he said to me, do you know that I have the power to reject that license when it is submitted? And I said, in what way? And he said, I sit on the electrical board of examining. So with that, I shut my mouth. The following day, I was called by my permit holder and said, do not go on the job site. I mean, like the following day. So he in turn now submitted the documents applying for the license. But based on my experience and my qualification, my license from Trinidad and Tobago is the only license that Trinidad and Tobago produces, other than an engineering license. I could not achieve an engineering license because I'm a non-national of the Trinidad and Tobago community. With that, I had to settle for the electrical license there. So Mr. Nico applied for a journeyman, which was rejected. He came to me, he called me and said, what? He had to go to a meeting. So he called me and said, what have you done to Mr. Wells? Did you disrespect him in any shape or form? I said, no. And he said to me, well, I think you owe that man an apology. And I said to him, I will not apologize for something that I have not done. The license, the application that he made was rejected. I sit with that. I have to sit home out of the 6 months, 3 months paying rent just because of that. Fast forward, Mr. Burns Rankin, my former employer, took the documents and he applied for the license and he got it. After that, Mr. Monroe applies and got it. That's 2018. 2019, Mr. Adrian Rowe, Reliable Electric, applied and he got it. Now, 2019, Browns Electric made an application and it was not granted. They gave me the receipt and told me that, gave Mr. Brown the receipt and told him that I could continue working with until the actual license is printed because the machine, the printer is not working now. And that went on from 2019 to 2021. When I put my foot down and I said, I need my license. Here I have all the receipts from 2019 to 2021. I was invited then to a meeting. I was invited then to a meeting at the Board of Examiner by myself, not with my employer, to a meeting scheduled on the 8th of June 2021 to provide, they said that I was to provide clarification on this expired temporary wireman license. The license number is TW269, that's temporary wireman 269. Okay, I went to the meeting. When I went to the meeting, it was a panel of 6 and the additional of 7, because you know the board have to be somebody have to, you know, the board setup. So while I was in the meeting and they asked me one question, they should have asked me to provide clarification of the expired license. I explained to them. At that time, I have my Trinidad license up to date, and I showed it to them and I said, this is none of my negligence, because if I can keep my external license up to date, I don't see why I would neglect keeping the one here up to date, knowing that this is the one that I have to use to work. But I said to the board, I cannot grant myself a license. It is within your jurisdiction to do so. Right? So, Mr. Walton Gooden begin to ask me some electrical question. I am not here to answer electrical question. I'm here to answer one question. They told me to go outside. I went outside and I could overheard this gentleman. I don't know his name personally, but I can identify him by face. He said, just take the effing license away from him, because this guy don't know who he works for. Another gentleman, while explaining, another gentleman told me to shut up. And I didn't take that as a friendly fire. We are in a meeting, that's why they call a meeting, so everybody voiced their opinion. And I was voicing mine and you were telling me to shut up. However, I left the meeting, honestly, to you and the public. I was so stunned based on their interrogation that I come out and I didn't, like you don't know which direction it was heading. I head straight to an attorney's office because I see that I see what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The attorney told me to wait and see what's the outcome. On the 8th of June and the 11th, the 15th of June, they replied to the Browns Electric and told them that at a meeting at the Electrical Board of Examiner held on the 8th, your application was considered and it was resolved to deny the application for the following reason. The applicant does not have a valid license as required per Regulation 6.1. Now, I was granted license 3 times by the board.
Mm-hmm.
My license, external license, was up to date.
Mm-hmm.
Based on anyone who's listening, opinions, how could I not have a valid license when the license was paid for?
So
and I had my receipts.
Yeah, so just to be clear, what you're saying is the same examining board had approved you for a license on 3 separate occasions before this time?
Yes, ma'am.
And now they're denying it on the basis that you haven't met the criteria.
Right.
But you're saying, how did you meet the criteria for the 3 times before? Because nothing.
3 times before.
Oh, okay.
So they said, except provided Regulation 6.2, every person carrying out electrical work shall be licensed in one of the following categories: electrical engineer, master electrician, wireman, linesman. They have approved a wireman license for me 3 times. And my experience and my qualification proves further than the wireman that they have granted. Right? So the footnote said that, please note that the following decision, the applicant may reapply with additional information for consideration. The applicant may also appeal the board's decision. The decision was appealed, and the appeal wasn't looked on until 1 year time. They stopped me from work, said I'm not supposed to carry out no form of electrical work here in the Cayman Islands. For what reason? The application was submitted and it was turned down. You're gonna see the excitement. What is going on with the Electrical Board of Examiner in the Cayman Islands? And if this is the way they operate, I would like to ask the question, who governs the Electrical Board of Examiner? They are doing some things which are hurting the economy and hurting the construction industry in the Cayman Islands. Just to fast forward, Mr. Walton Gooden, at October 4th, 2021, on the behalf of the Electrical Board of Examiners, he wrote to the Trinidad and Tobago Electrical Board of Examiners, requesting that my electrical license that is there in Trinidad should be cancelled. The reason being is because they see where they have wrong with me, and me not having a license from Trinidad would give them the grounds not to give me renew my license here.
So who's this person that contacted the Trinidad electrical people?
Walton Gooden.
Walton Gooden. What's his role here in the Cayman Islands?
His role is a member of the Electrical Board of Examiners.
So a member of the Electrical Board of Examiners contacted, I guess, their equivalent board in Trinidad and Tobago, asking them to strip you of your license there?
Right.
On what grounds?
The grounds that I'm not in Trinidad practicing. So I have the letter, both letters, both the submission and the response here in front of me, and I'm reading it here. It says that, good morning, Mr. Williams. I was trying to reach you yesterday by phone, but was unable to do so. I am a member of the Electrical Board of Examiners in the Cayman Islands. As the link above will confirm, the board is expected to look at practices in the countries from which our overseas applicants are coming before we approve overseas applicants. Now, this letter is written on the 12th of August 2021, and I was granted license 3 times before. So it's now after 3-4 years you are doing a background check. We have been using country's website to gather as much information as possible. In the case of Trinidad and Tobago, listen, we are unable to find a list of your licensed electrical workers. It is for this main reason that I am reaching out to you on behalf of the Electrical Board of Examiners. We now have an application before us for one Ryan Anthony Bernard, who is a Jamaican national that has a Trinidad and Tobago license. It says that then he says that, then he wrote back to the board and he says that a wireman, he says that just a point to ponder on. This is what he wrote to the electrical board here. In this email response attached below, Mr. Williams, the Chief Inspector of Trinidad, a wireman is not practicing in Trinidad and Tobago is not grounds for cancellation of the license. In accordance to the Electrical Installation Building Act of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. Clearly, this is not the standard used here. If a person is not a local, his license is not good as long as he has a valid work permit. His license is only good as long as he has a valid work permit.
So I'm a little bit confused because are they saying then that the only way you can get a electrical license in Cayman is if you have an electrical license in another jurisdiction?
Yes, if you have another license in another jurisdiction. Once you come here, even before you come in, your employer that is providing employment for you should get your license approved before you come on island.
But your approval is contingent on you having a license somewhere else?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Ms. Brenda says Walton Gooding is a former police from Barbados and he's now an electrician. Perla says some people come here to get power over others. That's just not right, but I wish him well for sure. So we only have about 10 minutes remaining in the program. I guess the question then is, what do you hope to do by the situation?
No, I appeal the decision, and I'm now left without an attorney because based on my work situation, I cannot afford to pay an attorney to sit in the appeal. The attorney that was sitting, that was representing me, his charge is too high, and I'm not working to that much to pay. I applied to the legal aid for assistance, and I do not get any. The date of the hearing of the appeal is the 28th of October. And without a legal representative, it can prove futile on my behalf because they requested the submission, written submission, and I do not have the knowledge to do the written submission. Right? And a company, Tripower, applied for the electrical license, and he was told by Mr. Shandelborn to secure the work permit first. When he applied for the work permit, it was deferred. It was deferred pending the electrical license. When it was deferred before Tripower could get the response from based on the time period of the email, Mr. Borden emailed Tripower and said to them that even if the applicants submit additional information that they had requested from an outside body, and it's only one outside body, that outside body could only be Trinidad and Tobago. He is not going to grant that electrical license. He is not going to grant it. I would like to, can I say something?
Sure.
I have much more to say. I have much more to say, but time permits us. I am deeply hurt, and I do not want to leave with the assumption that this is the way the experts are treated unfairly because of your power. And I would like to advise the necessary authorities of the Cayman Islands. As you would say to your neighbor, control your children. I would like to use that same phrase and say to the Cayman Islands government and those that are in authority, control those that represent the government. Control those that represent the government. I asked them, what is the problem? They remove everything from around the employer, and now I have been targeted. I cannot work to sustain my family, my children. And I like to make it clear that I have 3 girls. And I think, I know it is my responsibility to see them through. As a father, before somebody else played the role of a father to them. Yeah, I don't want him to say, because if I leave them back home and fail, that means it was no use of me leaving. And this is none of my fault. Who gains from this? Who gains from this? This is an inside work, and I'm asking those who are in authority, not those with power, because power belongs to God. Those who are in authority and oversees the government, take this into the, I'm speaking not only for myself, but I'm lending my voice to those who cannot speak. I'm lending my voice to those who cannot speak. I'm deeply hurting. The fact is, I have escaped from the garrison and achieved what I have achieved and become who I am. And same way, just the way like I fight to be here, to be a licensed electrician, I'm gonna fight to maintain who I am. Thank you.
So maybe we have some attorneys who are listening to the program this morning who believe that they can help this gentleman, Mr. Ryan, with some legal advice. Because I think that in a case like this, there's something obviously amiss here. One observer on WhatsApp says that before the first person chimes in, that they wouldn't do that to Caymanian. They need to know that the fear and expat has held over their head of deportation. And so somebody seems to be abusing their power. Ms. Brenda says the ministry and minister need to be advised of this. It seems like such an injustice. Anthony agrees. that this needs to be brought to the attention of the relevant agencies. She's wondering if there's some sort of conflict here based on nationality. I mean, I don't know if that's what it is. This whole electrical inspector situation seems fraught with a lot of issues from what I've heard, even the ones that work for planning. It seems to be a very close-knit group of individuals who are quote unquote running the show, and they want to exert a lot of power. I don't know if it's their egos, that have run amok or what's really going on here, but they seem to want to exert a lot of power over individuals that they see as either beneath them, as powerless, as I don't know, that they get to decide who's going to be able to have some bread and butter when it comes to the electrical system. I think the strongest point that has been made this morning is the fact that you have had a license approved and a work permit approved in this jurisdiction. You said a license was approved at least on 3 separate occasions. So how long did that span? Like, how many years did that cover?
Each year you have to do a renewal.
You have to do a renewal.
And this has been done like 3. This has been done like 2019 payments, 2020 payments, 2021 payments.
Mm-hmm.
I happened to meet Mr. Gooden one-on-one, and he said to me that I know you from somewhere, and I did not withhold my identity from him. I said, this is Ryan Bernard, the same guy with the Trinidad license. And his response to me was that I have nothing to do with it. I am just a member.
He's not willing to take responsibility for the fiasco that you found yourself in.
Ma'am?
You said he said he had nothing to do with it. So does that mean that he's not taking any responsibility for why you can't get your license approved?
No, he's not. And numerous companies have tried, and the response to them was that I have been working without approved license. Who does the approve? Who do the approval? It is the board of examiner who do the approval. And one of my final words is that those who are in authority, the board of electrical examiners need to be questioned and be thoroughly investigated. A sterilized check need to be done on them. I know Mr. Merlin Wells have it out for me. I know Paulus Powell have it out for me. I'm not afraid to call him. And there are others there. But whenever they strike, whenever they say anything, then I will respond to that. But this board needs to be reshuffled.
Wow. So Ms. Brenda is suggesting maybe the Legal Befrienders Clinic can assist. And Jaden says, what kind of joke thing this is? So it's really unfortunate, I think, when you hear people being taken advantage of. So Rayon, the story's out there now. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but let's hope that someone has heard your plea for help this morning and they can step forward and offer some assistance. We're going to reach out to the same electrical board. I think it falls under planning, which would be the minister that was actually on the program earlier today. And we'll see if we can get, some sort of response from them. Sometimes it's just a matter of putting some pressure on. But we do thank you for coming on the program and for exposing, at least some of what has been happening in your situation. Miss Maria says, what an awful mess. This is so unfair to the poor guy. So, you can't have people who are approving licenses and issuing licenses and permits not doing so within the proper remit of the law, because then that creates administrative issues for them. And if somebody can lawyer up and get a lawyer, they're going to be sued and they're going to be found to be in the wrong. So we need and we expect them to do the right thing in all situations. So, sir, we thank you again. Suzette said that your case is a sad one and he needs and deserves proper explanation as to why he's being crucified. There's something wrong, and I hope that he will receive the help needed so that he can be justified. I'm proud of him for coming forward. So everybody, I think, sees that this smacks of some sort of prejudice, and we would like to know why. What's really going on here with the electrical? They're called the electrical licensing. Give me the full name of what that.
Electrical Electrical Licensing Board of Examiners.
Electrical license.
Electrical Board of Examiners.
Okay. All right, we're going to try to see if we can get to the bottom of this, and we'll assist in any way that we can. And again, yes, this does fall under planning. I'm just having a look now. If we can see, they claim that they hold monthly meetings at Tuesdays at 2 p.m. in the government admin building. However, nothing updated in the website since February of 2022. So does that mean they haven't been holding monthly meetings, or they're just not updating the website? We're not sure. There's no minutes or agenda or anything being uploaded on the website. Before that, for 2021, the only meeting that we see listed is December of 2021, and 2020, nothing beyond that. So, this is where, again, these government agencies, when they start to do things to people and they're highlighted in a program such as this, we start to look at what they're really doing, and we start to ask them questions. So here we see that they're not even, I don't know if it's that they're not having meetings or they're just not putting them up on their website, but somebody isn't keeping up with this in terms of board meetings. So now we're going to be asking additional questions of this board, because maybe the minister needs to be aware, a board that I don't know if he appointed them or who, but this is a problem. So the chairman of this board is Carlos Powell. Do you know if he's still the chairman of the board?
Carlos Powell? Mm-hmm. Yes, he's still.
Okay, so according to this, he's the chairman. Merlin Wells, Edlin Moore, Timothy Howard, David Crawford, and Walton Gooding are all members. So it's made up of 7 members according to that. So we'll see what additional information that we can get in relation to this, and maybe put some questions to the planning department about how your application has been handled. Anybody else who wants to render any assistance, please feel free to come forward. Is there a way that people can contact you, sir, if they're interested in advice?
You can contact me by 13924 1901, or by email Bernard, all lowercase, Bernard_Ryan@yahoo.com. And Ryan is spelled
R-O-N, yeah, R-Y-O-N. Is Ryan. Okay. All right, folks. Ms. Brenda says there are lots more like him. Hats off to him for coming forward. Sandra, perhaps immigration should be made aware of the situation. Next thing might be to have immigration hunting him down. My thoughts. So what's your status on island at the moment in terms of immigration?
Work permit.
Okay. All right, folks. Yes. Okay, Ryan, we thank you again for stepping forward. Just give us the number one more time.
924 1901.
1901. All right. So if anybody wants to contact him, please feel free to reach out. And again, sometimes you've got to step forward and share your situation, your specific situation, for people to know that it's happening. And potentially this sounds on the face of it to be a very unfair situation. And we don't like for people, regardless of who they are, where they come from, to be abused in any way. And as Mr. Ryan said, here's a man who's pulled himself up out of the garrison. He could be doing all sorts of other things that would be putting himself, his country of Jamaica, and even the Cayman Islands in a negative light. And he has worked really hard to try to give himself a professional trade to support himself and support his family. It's people like this that we have to applaud, who against all odds are still doing the right thing. We see every day, we talk about people who are, given a silver spoon in their mouth. They have supportive family. They come from good families and whatever, and they're still out there doing the most wrong and hurting people. When you come from a disadvantaged situation and you still try to do the right thing, standing up for yourself, it's unfortunate to see.
When they do this, it pushes me back, because I've done it without my father. My father murdered when I was just 12 years old, and I took it from there and reached here, and you're bringing a war to me as if you're just bringing a war to me.
So you lost your father at the age of 12?
My father got murdered at the age of 12. Wow. Nobody was responsible for it. I pushed and go to school. go to school all the way in Trinidad, and then come on, man.
Yeah.
This is not what the heart electrical installation is about. It's about grooming and teaching. If anyone in that jurisdiction do something wrong, the electrical board of examiner responsibility is to show that person the right way, not to beat them down.
Very sad. Well, Ryan, we really hope that people hear your thoughts and your prayers, and please, most importantly, for help this morning, and that we can get you some much needed help and get this situation resolved. And please continue on a positive path. It's very important that you do not allow people to deter you for whatever their agenda is or whatever their reasons are. You just have to stay focused, and we'll get it worked out. We'll get it resolved one way or the other. And you have to maintain your faith that will happen.
Thanks for everything. Thanks to the public and those that reach out.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very sad. Unbelievable situation. Very, very sad. All right, Mr. Ryan. Again, thank you for coming in the program. I know you've been messaging me for a little bit, and of course, my apologies. Sometimes just so busy, but I'm glad that we were finally able to arrange your show appearance and to at least let the people know what's going on. And I think that something will now come of this. So do keep us updated. I'm going to send out a couple emails today, including to the minister, to see if he's aware of this situation and if there's anything he can do, even if it's just asking the correct parties to step forward.
Okay, thanks, Miss Anne. I'm going back to work.
All right, my dear. Folks, yes, you guys know how we really roll already in this program. We do not accept people taking advantage of people in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter who you are. Nobody's above the law. You've got to treat people in life with a certain degree of just human decency. That's all it is. And there should be a process, and the process shouldn't be full of any nepotism or prejudices or whatever. And it seems like this process is somehow broken, and it's really not working in the way that it should be. So we're going to ask some questions. We're going to agitate for some change and see what's going on. We have a wide audience of individuals that we reach. So I don't know who these people are. I don't know who Mr. Carlos Powell is or anybody else, but we're going to now reach out to them and say, hey, what's the deal here? On the face of it, with all the paperwork that Mr. Ryan has provided, it seems like something really stinks to the high heavens around here. Not right. Yeah. All right. Stay tuned for your news briefs here with Kevin Watler, bringing you news and weather this morning. We'll be back tomorrow for our Friday edition of the Cold Hard Truth. So make sure that you tune in and don't miss a beat.
Hello, I'm Kevin Watler, and this is your CMR Daily Buzz. 36-year-old Macau Brandon Leslie was sentenced to 16 years in prison for possession of an unlicensed firearm after he was found guilty in the February 21st, 2020 shootout at Globe Bar off Shedden Road. Attempts at mitigating the lengthy sentence by claiming he was firing in self-defense were unsuccessful. Leslie, also known as Brandon Leslie Ebanks, was initially charged with attempted murder as he tried to flee the jurisdiction and return to Florida. He was apprehended at the airport and subsequently charged with the shooting. In a landmark case that saw two government agencies disputing power and roles, Justice Alistair Walters ruled in favor of the National Conservation Council. Justice Walters said the Central Planning Authority acted unlawfully when it approved an application to rebuild a cabana and seawall at Boggy Sand Road in West Bay. The 51-page decision confirms the National Conservation Council has the authority to direct any entity of the government, including ministries, departments, portfolios, statutory authorities, and etc. Premier and Minister for Sustainability, Climate Resiliency, the Honourable Wayne Panton, said the Grand Court's decision clarifies the important role the National Conservation Council plays in safeguarding protected areas and species in the Cayman Islands. All restrictions for people traveling to and within the Cayman Islands have been removed. However, travelers who want to go elsewhere need to make sure they meet the requirements of the destination they are traveling to. Minister of Health and Wellness, the Honourable Sabrina Turner, was on the Cold Hard Truth with Sandy Hill on Wednesday and shared this tip.
The COVID travel regulation and control and management of COVID have all now been pretty much, have been repealed, and which means that unvaccinated visitors can come to our islands, and also there's no longer a need to have a travel declaration to enter the Cayman Islands. What needs to be taken away from this, though, is that the Cayman Islands as a jurisdiction is leading this charge in allowing unvaccinated non-Caymanian nationals to visit our shores. But it's not the same when you're leaving the Cayman Islands and going to the U.S. So people need to do their due diligence, because right now the U.S. states only Americans can come back, or persons holding an exempt letter from not being vaccinated can enter. So in this whole COVID sphere of things, we, the Cayman Islands, is leading the charge now in removing the vaccination requirement ahead of the U.S. So that's a huge takeaway for us.
Meanwhile, Public Health has announced that isolation requirements for unvaccinated individuals have been reduced for COVID-19 positive persons and their contacts. Vaccinated and unvaccinated COVID-19 positive persons will isolate for 6 days and leave isolation on day 7 as long as they have no symptoms. Vaccinated and unvaccinated contacts, persons who are primary contacts of COVID-19 positive persons, must conduct daily lateral flow testing for 6 days but may continue usual activities. It's important to note that the day of your original positive lateral flow test is considered day 0. Those who test positive for COVID-19 by lateral flow test must still report their positive test and complete a free public health confirmation PCR test at an HSA testing clinic. Cayman Airways Board Chairman Jude Scott resigned Monday night amid concerns that the board's strategic action items are not being prioritized by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. According to a press release, the Honourable Kenneth Bryan has accepted Mr. Scott's resignation, and a new chairperson will be appointed next week. Until the appointment, Dr. John Paul Clark, the deputy chair, will serve as acting chairman of the board until the new appointment has been confirmed. Sources have shared that Scott provided a detailed resignation letter to the ministry laying out his concerns about the direction the airline is headed and the lack of action from the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. In other Cayman Airways related news, the decision was made to recently promote Kel Thompson to captain this month, even though he will retire in 6 months. Mandatory retirement for Cayman Airways pilots is 65 years old. Younger pilots within the airline who also have more seniority are upset and feel cheated. One stated if they are not going to promote on the basis of fairness, then they will continue to lose good Caymanian pilots. Thompson was a captain previously but left the organization for a number of years before returning in 2016 as a first officer. Thompson started with the airline in 1978 and served as managing director for several years in the early 1990s. Police continue to look for Luisto Eusebio Hernandez in relation to firearm offenses. He is considered armed and dangerous and should not be approached. If seen, call 911 immediately. The search is still on for 2 missing men. 53-year-old Noel Paul Manning has been missing since June 24th, and 26-year-old Adrian Williamson has been missing since July 6th. Now you are asked to contact your nearest police station if you see them. Police are asking for help to locate missing 14-year-old Brianna Ebanks. She was reported missing on Friday and has not returned home since. The teenager was last seen at a business on Eastern Avenue on Friday morning but did not attend an appointment later that day. She has since been in contact with family members but still has not been located by the police. Anyone with information on her whereabouts is encouraged to call the West Bay Police Station at 949-3999. Anonymous tips can be provided directly to the RCIPS via their confidential tip line at 949-7777 or via their website. More information on each of these stories can be found at caymanmallroad.com. www.stormreadycayman.com. Now for a Storm Ready Cayman update brought to you by Home Gas. Shower and thunderstorm activity remains disorganized, associated with a tropical wave located a few hundred miles east-southeast of the Windward Islands. Now environmental conditions could become more conducive for slow development of the system in the next several days after it crosses the Windward Islands and moves across the eastern and central Caribbean Sea late this week into early next week. Now please monitor this system and ensure you are ready should it develop and impact the Cayman Islands. Remember, we are approaching that time of year when the tropics usually become a lot more active. Storm Ready Cayman updates are made possible thanks to Home Gas. Now for your CMR weather update, it's brought to you by WG Charters. Sunrise at 6:08. Scattered thunderstorms are expected. The temperature rises to the high 80s, but it will feel much hotter than that. When the high temperature is at 88 degrees Fahrenheit and the relative humidity is at 73%, like the forecast calls for, the temperature will feel around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds east-southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour, then the sun sets at 6:46. At nighttime, the temperature falls to the low 80s. Looking forward, keep an umbrella or raincoat with you, but overall similar weather conditions are expected. Remember, it's summertime, so those hot days, warm nights, and scattered showers are very typical for this time of year. CMR weather updates are brought to you by WG Charters. They offer private boat trips for a great price, and we encourage you to support them. Now for some regional and international news. 2/3 of Europe is under some sort of drought warning in what is likely the worst such event in 500 years. The latest report from the Global Drought Observatory says 47% of the continent is in warning conditions, meaning soil has dried up. Another 17% is on alert, meaning vegetation shows sign of stress. Now the report warns that the dry spell will hit crop yields, spark wildfires, and may last several months more in some of Europe's southern regions. Compared with the average of the previous 5 years, EU forecasts for harvests are down 16% for grain, 15% for soybeans, and 12% for sunflowers. A 36-year-old Italian man has been diagnosed with COVID-19, monkeypox, and HIV following a recent trip to Spain. The Independent reported earlier on Wednesday that scientists confirmed this is the first known case of a person testing positive for all three at the same time. The patient developed a series of symptoms including fatigue, fever, and a sore throat 9 days after returning from a trip to Spain where he engaged in unprotected sex. Jamaica's Minister of Education says 167 teachers have migrated, resigning from their employment in the local school system in the last 2 months. The Jamaica Teachers Association warned the country to brace itself for a teacher exodus this year, citing over 400 teachers have already departed the island for job opportunities in the United States. The education minister said while the numbers are concerning, the problem is under control, noting that the ministry has put in place many strategies to alleviate the efforts of the mass migration. The education ministry also said that 964 newly graduated specialist teachers are now eligible for work in the national school system. Apple customers could soon get a look at the next generation of iPhones. Apple sent out press invites on Wednesday for an event on September 7th where the company is widely expected to unveil the new iPhone 14 lineup. The event is set to be broadcast on Apple's website from Apple Park, the company's headquarters in California. In recent years, Apple has done most of its events virtually because of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's it for now on the Daily Buzz. Thank you for joining me. Please stay safe and God bless.